Yeah, this is going to be a loosey goosey episode. Hello, welcome to Read the Manga, episode 10 with Cory and Zach. Today we're doing things a little bit differently. We're not going to talk about a specific manga. Instead, we have come up with 10 categories, ranking essentially our favorite aspects of manga or our favorite mangas in those categories. So this is going to be the first official Read the Manga Awards.
We are gonna call it our spooktacular episode, but
I think it's been done.
yeah, we forgot about that.
Anyway, so I'm very interested to see your list, but just to kind of give some like sort of general things about mine so that people don't get pissed off. One, I have not read all that much manga, so you're going to see some of the same series reappear a few times. Number two, my list is very subjective and very like tailored toward my taste. So I'm guarantee that a lot of your favorite mangas are not going to be on there either because I haven't read them or because I don't like them very much. And number three, when weighing personal opinion versus like historical or cultural influence or influence on manga as a whole, personal opinion usually wins out for me. So most of my lists are not going to be very objective. They're more just kind of be my. Oh, and number four also, a lot of this list is subject to recency bias. So a lot of these mangas I read in high school, and so a lot of mangas I don't really remember that well. So I've read a lot of manga like just for the podcast, 10 of them actually. So a lot of the mangas that I've read recently are going to rank kind of high up just because they're still fresh in my memory. So my list is going to
There's
be.
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. I just wanted to let them know beforehand that my lists are going to be a complete joke before that they accept like that I actually know what I'm talking about. But you are the one that's like the manga expert though.
I'm not a manga expert. I'm just somebody who is a heavy user by
Okay.
what McDonald's would consider.
Kind of like how a chain smoker isn't necessarily a nicotine expert.
They've success. They kill their own satisfied customers every year. You don't think they wouldn't bug my house?
What was that from?
King of the Hill.
Fucking Dale. You
One
see,
of my
you didn't
favorite.
you
One of
didn't
my
even need to
favorite
tell me
shows to
what
watch.
character said that. I knew it was Dale. Anyway,
Yeah, as far as my end of the list thing goes, it's kind of the opposite. Seeing as I've gorged myself on good and bad series, and also like a lot, uh, you know, there's series that I'm like, I remember that was super cool. Check it out again, like years later. I'm like, I guess at a time and place.
all
Like
right.
I got a lot of that from going through my updates list and all that. Just like, yep, all right, okay, yep. Why is this on here?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like I like that your list has a lot of fast food on it. Like I like that you'll have the manga equivalent of McDoubles, but you'll also like enjoy the manga equivalent of like a filet mignon. I
And
appreciate that
also,
omnivorism.
I mean, it's honestly one of those things where it's a medium that I enjoy, and ever since I got into it, I have found hours of my time being taken just being pulled into these stories.
Mhm.
It's actually really amazing to see how imaginative a culture can be, like in manga, when you look at Japanese society, and you can see how, like, it kind of has this rose colored glasses to it. You got a lot of guys over here that are like, guys like us who are into it, so they want to go move there, and then they don't realize, like, it's a completely different way of living over there. Like, they are very work ethic oriented society. It's like very much a meritocracy, like, and so to see somebody be able to come up with such fantastical ideas, such as like Oda, which, he outright says, like, he rips off a lot of people and he just reimagines a lot of things that he's seen
Mhm.
and packages it really well. And I appreciate that about him. In fact, one of the things I appreciate about him is saying that his mentor is one of his biggest influences, which, is crazy because people will know him and not his mentor at all,
Yeah.
on an international level.
Yeah.
But it's insane to see that, it's a it's a medium that I've seen. Like, I'm a guy who grew up on a farm in the middle of nowhere, and yet I'll see guys who are in, like, essentially like joking like they're in the hood and stuff, or are in the hood, that enjoy the same series I like.
Yeah,
And there are people that are barely able to get cable in some parts of the world, and they like whatever they can get. So
dude.
it's
I,
like,
I spent I
but
spent a
it's crazy
year
how.
I spent a year going to a boxing gym in like Southside Sacramento, and it was all just a bunch of like ripped African American men talking about Dragon Ball Z, and it was fucking awesome. But yeah, you're right. Like the manga is very like culturally diverse in that way that like you can like it's nerdy, but like it's a kind of nerdy where it's like manga fans definitely recognize each other, you know?
And what I appreciate about the medium is that I get to understand what they want. Like, I get to be shown like a different culture in a very interesting, exaggerated, albeit way. Like, especially like, I'm sorry, but like 9 times out of 10, a romance series, if that's the tag on it,
Hmm.
is probably written by someone who like barely probably understands human connection.
Yeah.
That's the one medium I feel like manga is the weakest at, is romance, because it's like a lot of them are like, let's take this completely average guy. He's so average that like he's almost non-existent, but you know what he has? A good heart. And that's why all the bitches want him. Boom.
Is isn't
You get
that
like
is it
18.
isn't that one of those reasons you like that series? It's not my fault I'm not popular because it was kind of like inverting that to where it was like about a girl.
No, see, what I'm referring to is like that weird thing where for some reason you have to make the protagonist a completely average fellow
Yes,
and actually claim that they're completely average. But there's two very key facts.
yes,
They are average in pretty much every way, except they morally are on the good side, and two, they are slightly above average attractiveness.
yeah. It kind of
And using those 2 points, they could roll out however many volumes they want of this guy essentially being hot potatoed around between possible romantic interest,
yeah.
and half the time he's gonna walk in on them in the bathroom or some other stupid shit. But like, it's not my fault I'm not popular is actually a little different. I think it touches upon, like, she'll go through like situations where like she'll mix up tropes from like media with real life, and
Mm,
I think there's some instances where like the harem tropes or the romance manga tropes are brought up in it. That's what I like about that series, though.
yeah,
So it kind of lampshades those tropes like pretty
yeah.
hard.
Anyway, without further ado, I think we should get into our lists a little bit. So I guess the way I'm going to kind of structure this is just kind of like give the category and sort of like give like what I would give the award to, and then kind of list some of my honorable mentions. So first one
All right.
I have on here, best shonen. And I want you to go first with this one. What did you pick for the best shonen manga of all time, or at least your favorite shonen manga of all time?
I was hoping you go first. This one was hard.
It was hard, and I'm curious.
All right. Well, I'm gonna be real. Like, I think if I was to be stuck with only being able to read one shonen series at all, I guess I would probably pick. I mean, honestly though, like, that's a hard question, because like, to say the best, like my definition of best is like it has to hit a lot of marks on it. But
Yeah,
I will probably say like the most well-rounded out shonen is probably One Piece. Like, I cannot find faults in that series, and no matter what, I'm always salivating when a new chapter comes out. So, not to be like simping about it, but man, like, One Piece is one of those series where I actually like. It's one of my. I only know it's Sunday half the time because I know that's when a chapter comes out, or Friday. Like, I'm like, oh man, I gotta read the good book today.
so, okay. What were some of your honorable mentions?
Honestly, I really think Toriko is a really good series, and I think
Okay.
that it did not. I think one, it deserves a super. If you're gonna give Dragon Ball Z a super, give Toriko a super. Let him
Okay.
go to space.
Do we have to wait 20 years
Um,
for it though?
no, just do it tomorrow.
Okay.
Um, Demon Slayer was really good. I just finished that. Same with Promised Neverland. That was really good.
Okay. Those are
Um,
some dope picks.
My Hero Academia is like a really good one as far as another recent one goes. And that's one that's actually like, even recently, I'm like, dude, this guy just does not know when to quit. Like,
Hmm.
this is an emotional series.
Okay.
Um, GTO is a personal favorite, and so is Assassination Classroom. Those are like my teacher series that I really like that are shonens.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess like the last few would be like Air Gear didn't get a good anime. That
Hmm.
sucks. That was one that I really liked. Same with Shaman King was one that I really liked as a
Okay.
shonen. And yeah. I mean that's pretty much it. I mean, there's Beelzebub. I like that one too. But I
Beelzebub was
mean,
good.
yeah, that's the thing. Shonen. There's a lot of shonens to pick from. They all have their strengths and weaknesses, and they all go about them in interesting ways. It's funny. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I like Naruto and Bleach too, but they're not going to be in like my top five right now. Like, My Hero
Shonen.
Academia is like definitely up there. Same with One Piece.
Yeah, and shonen mangas, especially the action ones, have such a well-worn formula. But what's always so interesting about them is how authors can kind of play within that formula and like find new spins on old shonen tropes. But so for me, my honorable mentions are going to be Great Teacher Onizuka. Obviously, I fucking love that one. I think it's so heartfelt and so funny and so just like all around just puts me in a really good mood and has such a well developed supporting cast. Hunter x Hunter, because like the only reason I probably putting Hunter x Hunter in honorable mention is because it's not finished, and I'm fucking pissed about that. That he
Yeah,
stopped writing it. Dragon Ball, because like how can you not put Dragon Ball on a best shonen list? And then Yu Yu Hakusho, because I'm me. But my
I
number,
was going to put those all on my list, but I figured you would cover it,
yeah,
so I was like, all right.
you know my tastes. So
Yeah,
my number one, I chose One Piece as well. Like
yeah.
it's so sprawling, it's so well developed, it's gone on for so long, and like I started reading weekly in 2013 and haven't missed a chapter since. Like that's one of those ones where it's so engrossing on a weekly basis, and like the larger story arc is so interesting that like it's one of those ones where it's like it's so long but it doesn't feel like that length because there's still so much story to tell. Like it doesn't waste any room. Like the story is so huge that like it can get away with being that long without you getting fatigue over it. It doesn't feel like he's just drawing it out for no reason. It feels like we're heading towards a very specific endpoint, and the getting there is just so fucking enjoyable, and he hasn't tripped up yet, which is crazy.
Yeah, and there's very few series that have that kind of longevity.
Yes.
Like
It's
I find it impressive because the Simpsons are probably one of the only few other series that goes as long as it has been going. Like
mhm.
One Piece, like the American equivalent of One Piece would be like the Simpsons.
One Piece and South Park started in the same year.
Yeah, but it's like what's really interesting about it is like the fact that it's a narrative that is
Yeah.
linear.
It's
You know,
it's a story that keeps building on itself and getting better as it goes and adding over time rather than just like diluting the same formula and like becoming a lesser version of itself with each passing year.
it's always there's stuff that came out like a few years ago that would then become prominent now.
Yeah.
Like, plot points that he throws out there. Like it's insane the amount of convergence and divergence the
J-
narrative can take at
the
any given time.
the character of Jinbei was hinted at in volume 8 and didn't appear until like volume 45 or something. Like that's how far ahead Oda plants his seeds.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, yeah, we could talk about One Piece all night, but we gotta move
Yeah,
on.
stay tuned for our 14 episode uh, read the manga on One Piece because that's going to come down the line eventually.
If we started talking about One Piece as we try to finish it from the beginning, we'd probably not catch up. I don't know. I don't know. That'd be way too long.
Yeah,
Way too long.
yeah. Anyway, best seinen. I'll go ahead and go first on this one since you went first on the last one.
Okay.
So I'll give you some of my
This,
art. Hmm?
yeah, I'm really interested in what you're picking for
Yeah,
this one.
because I feel like I've always been a little bit more of a seinen guy than you have. Like that was always my thing, even in high school. Like I liked the more kind of like realistic stories and realistic art styles, and I thought I was better than everybody else, so I couldn't fucking read shonen. But
Oh
I've
no, seinens are amazing.
uh,
They're my favorite genre, honestly, is seinen.
yeah,
Like, because you get the harder questions and answers.
yeah, it's like
Plots.
after like reading thousands of chapters of ridiculous hair and anime fight scene and sword battles and stuff, eventually you want like a nice chaser of like I want something that's a little bit more grounded, and that's kind of the niche that seinen fulfills. Oh, and I should also say we didn't do best shojo or best jose because I don't think either of us are really qualified to talk on those demographics.
Code Geass.
Sure, Code Geass wins all of it. That's the only good one. I'm just
I'm
kidding.
pretty sure I've read a few Jose. I just can't remember what they
Yeah,
are.
I want to get into it because like I want to see Japanese manga directed at adult women that are like intelligent, that are like the female version of seinen. But it's just I've never found one that like what seemed interesting enough for me to actually like commit to reading it. But anyway,
Especially a non-space one.
sorry, you cut out briefly. What'd you
Oh
say?
yeah, like a non, especially finding a non-romance space one too.
Yeah, like I don't know. There's some that I heard that were like there was one that was about this chick that like is like a professional piano player that seemed really interesting, but I can't remember what it's called. But anyway, so my picks for best seinen, my honorable mentions, Berserk, obviously, because that's kind of like the seinen manga that like kind of introduces people to the demographic. Gantz is up there. Akira, because like Akira was like again one of like the formative texts in seinen manga and influenced literally everything that came after it. Ichi the Killer is up there for me just
Oh yeah,
because I love that fucking like sadistic kind of vibe that it has to it, and I love its sense of humor and I love its art style. But that's one of those ones that like you got to be in kind of a sick place to enjoy it.
I
But
totally don't. I totally forgot about that one until you
yeah,
mentioned it just now.
yeah. Spoiler
Great
alert.
movie.
It's
Great movie.
good. Yeah, good movie, great manga. And then, but for my number one seinen, it would be Eden. It's an Endless World by
Oh, I love that one. That's a
I
great one.
I can't remember the author's name, but I remember being so fucking engrossed in that series. Essentially, like it's for those who haven't read it, it's kind of like a cyberpunk Godfather, where like this this virus has killed like a huge percentage of the population, but it's like a little bit less dangerous than they thought it would be. Like they thought it was going to kill everybody, it kills like 15%, but like in the ensuing turmoil, a terrorist organization called Propator overthrows the UN and basically becomes in control of like a big chunk of the world, and the rest of the world outside of Propator's control is basically um, like run by drug lords. And the main character is the son of one of the drug lords, and it just kind of follows his journey, like living in this really like desolate, hopeless kind of environment, but still being able to like navigate through it and retain somewhat of an optimistic point of view, even though some horrific stuff happens to him and the people around him. But it's fucking fantastic.
Yeah, I remember when you're trying to get me into it, you're like, dude, it's like The Godfather mixed with like post-apocalyptic sci-fi. And I'm like, cool, I'll check it out.
Mm-hmm.
And it was beautiful.
It's beautiful. So,
You're just like, man,
hmm?
that hooker chick really hates this kid, and you're just like, oh, you don't even know. That's hilarious.
uh, I feel like the relationship between Elijah and the hooker chick can kind of like be thought of as like a more adult version of the relationship between Naota and Haruko. But I might be grasping at straws.
You could write a book on Neon Genesis.
Ah, God, maybe. I need to watch the movie like five more times before I could even understand Neon Genesis. Anyway,
So for
what's
my picks for
yeah?
Seinen, this was fun.
All right, let's hear them.
So my pick personally, Shin Ongya Onchi.
Yep, that is a very Corey pick.
Yeah, that series kicks ass. If folks aren't aware, Shin Ongya Onchi is actually a manhwa. So it was written in Korea and well, South Korea, not the North one. If it was written in the North one, then it'd probably just be all blank pages. I don't know how they do stuff, but it is a series that is about pretty much. It's like kind of during the Edo period of Japan, Korea was going through similar kind of strife with like a lot of the politics in their country. And one of the things that they had was they actually had like an FBI back in the day. Those were the Anga Onchi. And the main character is someone who is a previous member of that because they were dissolved after a great schism happened in their government. And they divided from having a unified government back to warlords. So essentially, the Onge Onchi's job back when there was a government was to go to villages and make sure that anybody who was a feudal lord or who had peasants and such was not treating them unfairly or unjustly. Like their only job is to instate order. And so this series kind of does a interesting take on that by obviously exaggerating things with mysticism, um, like some magical stuff, curses, all that. But what I love about it is the main character doesn't really subscribe to a lot of that stuff. It kind of honestly reminds me a lot of Berserk. Like
Hmm.
it would be like Moonsu is kind of like you take somebody who's like Spike Spiegel and you put him into like a world that like is like Guts's world is kind of what you get is a Moonsu. Like dude runs around and fights monsters using like revolvers and like he does it to like expunge corruption and stuff, and he's not above using like any kind of shady means to get things done. So I don't know. That was a series when I read it, I was like, hot damn, this series kicks ass. And then I looked it up, I was like, nobody knows about it.
Yeah.
This sucks.
I think I read probably the first 5 or 6 volumes when you recommended it to me, but I do remember it being very good. I mean that would be a fun one to do on the podcast. Or maybe for episode 20 we could do read the manhwa.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, it just shows that there's like a whole nother avenue to go down for series to read. Like if
Yeah.
people weren't even aware, like Korea makes series too.
And
The
they
funny thing is you read them like comic books, like
yeah, left
same
to right,
direction.
yeah. And they have their own
Yeah.
culture and their own history that's just as deep and rich as what's going on in Japan.
Oh
Um
yeah.
yeah, okay.
And then
So
as far as honorable mentions for that, I guess because that one took the cake.
mhm,
Obviously, Berserk, Eden, Gantz.
yeah.
Gantz is definitely there. Um, gosh, so many seinens,
Mhm.
so many. Uh, and the funny thing is, there's a lot of series that aren't seinen that I would consider seinen. You know,
Yeah. They're
like
like
I'm just like this is like probably heavier than the average bear. This isn't Shonen Jump really. Like
yeah.
okay, or this wasn't Shonen Jump or
But then
whatever.
there's also
Like
some
NYPD Psycho.
yeah, that was in Shonen Ace or something. Like why would you
Yeah.
market that to 13-year-olds? Or like kind of how like One Punch Man like is like makes fun of the tropes of shonen manga but is published in a seinen magazine. But like One Punch Man has like more of a shonen feel to it.
Yeah, and then the fact of the matter, and then it's published on Shonen Jump on the app now.
Yeah.
So like, is it a saying or like the magazine? Just I don't know. I guess the magazines have more dictation on it than you know.
I
All
think
right, what the author says.
I think it more has to do with Viz being the English publisher. Like I feel like Viz would put like it doesn't really matter what the magazine it was published in Japan is, as long as Viz has the rights to it. They're just going to put out whatever they want to on their app, you know. So we could get like if Viz has I don't know what else Viz has the rights to, but there's definitely some seinens on that Shonen Jump app. Like Tokyo
Oh
Ghoul is
yeah,
on there. Um,
Tokyo Ghoul is considered. Is that considered a shonen?
I'm pretty sure that
For
was
sure.
seinen on manga.
I mean it. The anime's TVMA, so like
Yeah,
I would assume that would be like a seinen. Is anything that would be considered that? Anything TV 14 would be like shonen, in my opinion.
yeah,
It is a seinen manga. Yeah.
yeah. We got to do that one because I
Okay,
really want to read that manga.
that's a good one. That's actually a really good one.
Really, I've heard
That's
it's
that's
so
an
good.
honor. That's an honorable mention on mine. It is actually its art is fantastic,
Mm,
and a lot of it's actually later on my list for supporting cast. It was one of my honorable mentions for that one.
gotcha. Okay. Um, All right. So best
One
villain.
battle royale.
What?
Everybody keeps forgetting about that. That's an honorable mention for Seinen as well.
Okay.
It's battle royale.
I I only had like four honorable mentions per category just because I like to force myself to narrow things down. But Battle Royale would probably be like number five. You know, like Battle Royale is definitely in my top list. I haven't read it in so long that I don't know how the story would hold up. But I
I
remember,
went and reread it not too long ago, and it was horrible. It was really good, but it was still like I was like, my God, I can't read this ever
yeah,
again.
it's freaking disgusting, dude. And like
Yeah,
like
it's bad.
we're
I had to
27
skip
now.
over
Like,
like straight up chapters. Like I'm like, nope, 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 nope. Okay, all right.
uh, like
It was bad.
there's stuff that we read as kids that we wouldn't want to have somebody catch on our computer as adults. You know?
And that's like a whole issue and point with a lot of that stuff too. Like a lot of those harem series and the etchy stuff in a lot of them, I just don't. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
Oh, you could tell me all day freezing has cool fights, so and so. It doesn't matter. Like half the time, chicks who are like apparently minors are getting their clothes blown off. Like I'm not gonna watch it.
Yeah, do anything you want as long as it's with adults. Or if you have a reason to depict a minor in that scenario, make it a damn good reason. Like something like Bocarono handles it in a mature way, but like where it's just like 16-year-old girls like with their tits out because like it titillates the readers.
It's one of the weak points of My Hero, in my opinion, because it's like sure you could draw the adult heroes and their sexy leotards however you want. I don't give a shit. But then when it's like you have like even the dude characters like with their muscles out and stuff, I'm like, well, this isn't for us. This is for the kids, I guess. Whatever. I mean, that goes back to Oda's argument though, where he's like, I don't know, I draw chicks the way I do because I he's intentionally trying to like rev up the horny engine on these 14-year-old kids that read his shit.
He also started doing that right after he married his wife, so he was probably going through a period of higher sex drive.
And all his characters are over 18 for the most part that get involved for that.
True, except for like
Like Nami was 18 when it started.
Rebecca, though, Kuroda Coliseum, I don't really think there's an excuse for that. She does
Isn't
not.
she 18?
She's 16.
Oh, no, there's no excuse for that.
Yeah, it's like also the armor is completely impractical.
Apparently, in an SBS, he joked like the way he starts drawing a woman is he just makes an X on the page, and the
Okay,
waist is where it connects.
okay, I take it back. One Piece is not my favorite shonen. um,
But it has so many plot details. There was two cups on the front of a cover.
you
How do we not know?
you know what, Oda? I'm putting Bleach as number one just for that shit.
Oh, Bleach did the same thing.
I don't care. It's Kubo. Like, of course, like I expect better of Oda than I do Kubo. Kubo, it's like
Hey,
he's the Japanese Michael Bay. Like I'm like, dude, you're gonna be as lowbrow as possible. That's fine with me.
so the real best villain is
Yes.
just Oda.
Okay. The great segue because the next category is best villain. Who you got for that?
All right. I think, as far as villains go, the greatest villain there possibly could be is our boy Griffith.
That's it.
I don't know why. I was wrapping my mind around every bad mother effer in every series I've ever had like read, and I was just like, Hisoka's cool, but is he a villain? He's antagonistic, but he's not an outright villain. He's just a chaotic force within the world. A villain is someone who wrangles a narrative and subjugates it to their will.
Yes.
And I think that Griffith is the guy who, like, he's essentially he out of most like series like villains, he's the only one who succeeded as ultimate plan, and we're now seeing him coast.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything that we're seeing after he won was pretty. This is just the victory lap, and everything Guts is going through is just like trying to catch up, like on a pace car. Like it's not like that is what's interesting about Griffith as a villain. And I mean, there are a lot of great villains. Like we have. I put Tetsuo on there. He's a great villain.
That's a good choice. I
Uh,
almost put him on my honorable mentions, but yeah, I was kind of thinking about him too.
And then we have Shinsui.
Who?
Is that how you pronounce it? Or is it
Shinsui?
Sunsui? From Yu Hakusho.
Sensui. Shinobu Sensui.
Sensui.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sensui's
I don't know
very
why I kept
interesting.
saying. I like him as a villain too. That was probably I think the reason why I think I still like Yu Hakusho to this day is because of the Chapter Black arc was my favorite arc of it.
Same here. Chapter Black was
The Dark
fantastic.
Tournament was cool, and Tagoro almost made my list just because of how interesting of him. But it was more him and his brother
Yeah.
made it really interesting, and his relationship with Genkai. But on their own, like I guess Elder Tagoro would be a very interesting villain too. But it ultimately Sensui came out of it
No love
as
for
as a villain.
Rando.
You're a rando.
How about fucking the dude that ate the kids' souls that was teamed up with Kurama and Hiei for 5 minutes? That guy was cool. That's a good villain.
The stupid little ball thing.
Yeah.
Oh
Oh,
man, they missed out when they didn't get to recruit him to the team. They
or
killed him off way too early.
the kid with the fishing pole. I liked him. There's some lame villains in Yu Yu Hakusho, but yeah, Sensui and Toguro are just like the two giants that kind of like spread their influence over the entire series. And you're right, out of the two, I would pick Sensui as the more interesting one, but it's pretty close because I think Toguro just didn't do quite enough. Like Sensui had such an ideology and such a like he had such a like his villainousness was the result of him actively trying to change the world for what he thought was the better, whereas Tagoro was just looking for a fight, which like that's one of those tropes that's been done before. Tagoro does like they do it really well in Yu Yu Hakusho with Tagoro, but like Sensui's underlying motivation I think is just deeper and his character just feels more human to me. But so for my
I
list,
could appreciate that.
I put Shinobu Sensui on my honorable mentions. I put Kakihara from Ichi the Killer on there because it's kind of debatable who's the villain in that because it's like they're all fucking awful, but like since Kakihara is technically the antagonist, I guess, or the protagonist, like in the movie he's more the protagonist, in the manga he's more the antagonist, but that's just a perspective thing. Like he does the same shit. But as far as like just being a crazy ass like Joker motherfucker, but going way more hardcore with it, like I like Kakihara. Like he fucking stands for something and he's willing to go really
Let's
fucking far to achieve his goals.
let's play pop up pirate.
I forgot about that scene, dude. Oh, that was
When
nasty.
I die, I want you to fuck me. And then after
Anybody?
that guy died, he looked at a guy and he's like, take him in there and do it. And the guy was like,
Yeah, no, Kakihara is like to anybody who like has not read Ichi the Killer, I promise we're not fucking serial killers, but it's a really good manga. But no, Kakihara, that's why he's interesting because he has his own moral code and he makes him and his followers stand by that. Like when he tortured the wrong guy and realized that afterward and cut off his tongue because of it, like at least he's willing to like admit that he fucked up. Like he has a moral center, which I appreciate. Like he
is
has his
it
own
is
code
it
of ethics.
really is it really admitting you messed up and setting yourself back though when you're a sadomasochistic sociopath though? Like he got off from fighting people as they cut parts of his body off. Like he intentionally had his penis filleted and did it to another guy and told him like, hey, people pay good money for this to be done. Like, I don't know. I feel like when he cut his tongue off, it was probably just like, oh, I need to do something to like win them back.
His whole thing was that he had a sweet tooth and he was cutting off his source of pleasure. So he's like,
Yeah.
I like sweets and candy, so I'm going to take that away from me as retribution. So okay, my the other guy on my honorable mentions is Light Yagami because like, how can you not love that crazy fucking
Oh, of
egomaniacal
course.
motherfucker? Yeah, like Light Yagami's fucking great. But we covered
I
that on the
started
Death
eating
Note
potato
episode.
chips because of him.
And my one and two were very close because my number one I had Griffith as well because it's like Griffith did nothing wrong. I almost couldn't put him as a villain because of that. Like just he was just trying to build his kingdom. He's doing what's
He
best
was
for
in
the
the wrong
world.
place at the wrong time.
Wrong place, wrong time. Who wouldn't have done the same thing in his situation? He shouldn't have fucked the girl probably. Like that kind of fucked him over. But like I don't know. He's all right. He's all right in my book. I
He went
trust
out
him.
of his way to piss off the king, like in the best way possible. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, and so my number two would be Meruem from Hunter x Hunter, because like you said, Hisoka's not really a villain, like because he could have easily made the list too. But Meruem, I pretty much only put him at number two because by the end I would argue that he ceases to be a villain. I think he changes so much that like you can't really see him as a villain anymore. But like as an antagonist that like reflected the protagonist back at them and made you question the morality that the entire series is based off of. Yeah, Meruem is an incredibly complex, very humanistic character, and I think he's probably Yoshihiro Togashi's best creation as a character.
He looked like Cell.
He did look like Cell.
He
He
did.
yeah, in like Yoshi in Togashi art style. Okay, ready to move on to best fight scene?
Sure, why not? You
Wait,
want to go first on this one?
what the fuck? The video, huh? No, the video time just like did a weird thing, but oh well, I'll edit this out. But anyway, so I'll go first on this one. So, um, for the best fight scene, I cheated a little bit. Um, so for my honorable mentions, I did Guts versus Griffith because of like the emotional stakes of it. I did Crollo versus Hisoka because like to this day, like I'm so like to anybody who doesn't read the manga for Hunter x Hunter, read the fucking manga because it like the best fight scene in that entire series has yet to be animated, and I'm not going to say anything more than that. Ichi versus Kakihara because like I love like just this two sick fuck serial killers fighting each other. And then Goku versus Frieza because that's like the shonen battle to end all shonen battles. And then my number one, I put the Battle of Marineford, just because like everything else was fight scenes. It was all one on one, but this one was like one of those ones where it's like I was trying to choose a One Piece fight scene, and I'm like, I truly think the most epic conflict that's ever been shown in a manga is the Battle of Marineford.
Oh, most definitely. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a crazy one.
Oh yeah. And it's not even really a fight scene because there's so many people involved. It's more of like a battle scene, but it's like I don't know, like that entire
It's like the
fucking thing is insane. Anyway, what
local
was
man discovers Battle Marineford is like a battle scene.
yes, yes, it is in fact a
This
battle
one was
scene.
this one was hard, honestly, because like I love my fight scenes. They're probably what I look forward to in a lot of series. Um, shoot, this was a really hard one, and I think it has kind of like a little bit of that recency bias
Hmm.
because I'm gonna say I'm pretty sure I think the Broly versus Gogeta fight from the most recent Dragon Ball Super movie is my favorite fight scene I've seen yet.
But that wasn't in a
Just because
manga.
of just huh?
Oh, I thought this was just fight scenes for mangas.
We've been doing all over the place, bro.
Oh shit!
But that could be an honorable mention.
Oh yeah,
But
I just
what's
only
it
put it
called?
for mangas, not animes.
That's all good. That's personally my because when it comes to fight scenes too, like as much as I enjoy them in mangas, like sometimes like just you can't. It's hard to compete when you have music and everything going
Yeah.
with it. I mean, it's a dynamic scene. One series that I feel did fight scenes really well, though. I mean, it's you know a fighting series is Ippo.
Hmm.
The Takamura versus Brian Hawk fight is probably my favorite fight in that manga.
Okay.
Mainly because like there's a lot building up on it, and it's like one of those things where Takamura is kind of like that character where he's a standard, he's like a set goalpost that you hope the other characters can get to. So seeing him in a situation where he might not win, he might lose, where's this going to go? This could actually be very impactful on the plot, and then just seeing like how it plays out in the way the author like George does it is just it's a really great fight. Even just reading it,
Hmm.
it was one of my favorite fights to read. um, Another honorable mention I guess would be, I don't know, pretty much anything made by Studio Trigger, even though those are animes. And
Yeah.
then I guess as far, as like just reading wise, like I guess I really like the Katakuri and Luffy fight recently out of One Piece. That one was cool to see because it was like been a while since we got to see Luffy not only be tactful with his fighting, along with just getting like the crazy raw power up.
Yeah, that's
Like
definitely
it was
top
like,
five One Piece fight scenes for me.
yeah. But
Just
all right,
because it was like
that
Luffy fighting like his better half. Like he was fighting a guy that had very similar powers to him, but was just like so much farther along in his career.
oh yeah, yeah, exactly. It was like seeing like, because their powers are pretty similar.
Yeah.
So I definitely, it was definitely a good point to put Katakuri there as like a standard. Like, well, he was like a, what is it, first mate who
Yeah.
had similar powers to Luffy, and it showed Luffy is like stronger than at least a Yonko first mate.
Yeah, exactly. He kind of like passed the threshold test for getting into like the upper echelon of power in that series.
I don't know why, but I was going to add the Griffith and Guts fight from Berserk, but I also kind of put it on honorable mention because it was like more of just the emotional severity to it. Man, Berserk is really good.
Hmm.
It's going to probably be talked about a lot on this.
Yeah, the Guts and Griffith fight is just like fucking fantastic. Like because like not a lot happens in it. It's just a stare down and then one sword slash, but just that one movement tells you so much and completely alters like the plot. You know what I mean? Like there's so much weighing in on that fight scene that like I don't think I've ever seen a fight scene that had that much that was so short but also had that much relevance to the story and that much relevance to the characters and that much weight behind it, you know?
Guts should have just went full down.
And killed him.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make any sense because Griffith needed to go on and continue to not do anything wrong. You know what I mean? Like how can we get all of those chapters of Griffith like just minding his own business and not doing anything wrong without that fucking fight scene? Plus, we would have missed out on like the single best villain in manga history.
So best series without an anime, right?
Yeah, that's the next one. So yeah, let's hear yours. Your
All right.
favorite manga that doesn't have an anime adaptation.
This is gonna be easy. Eden needs an anime. More people need to know about it.
Yeah.
So that's I pretty much took this as a from priority of what if I could pick any series I wanted to see animated, I would go in this order. Like do this one
Could you
first.
say it's that it's needed an anime?
You
Okay.
did.
I'm done.
Shingonga Onchi needs an actual anime.
Okay.
The little movie doesn't count. I
No.
don't think it needs a full adaptation.
Yeah, I don't count OVAs.
Akumetsu, yeah, Akumetsu. That one, that one needs an anime just because it's insane,
Okay.
and I bet Mappa could do it super fun.
All right.
Um, Biomeat Nectar is another one
That's a good
that I
choice.
think should have an anime, and Angel Densetsu.
Dude, honestly, I think Biomeat would fit very well into the current climate of like Netflix anime, like how they did a Parasite anime, they did Devilman Crybaby. Like I feel like Biomeat fits right in there as far as like that kind of weird body horror seinen thing.
And it's also like a cult classic kind of series. Like it's not really well known, so you could get for cheap and use most of the money to just do it well.
Yeah. So my honorable mentions also include Angel Densetsu. I have Battle Royale on there because I think seeing that adapted in movement and seeing that artwork like in fluid motion would be amazing. Ichi the Killer I have on there just because like
Oh yeah,
imagine if the studio that did Doro Hedoro did Ichi the Killer.
Mappa.
Yeah,
They're really good.
they're
I've
really
been
good.
watching Jujutsu Kaisen and I've been enjoying it. And
Nice.
they did that. It's
Uh,
really good.
and then Chainsaw Man is on there for me. Even though it's getting an anime, like I still put it on my list because there's no anime yet.
Also made by Mappa.
Oh, nice! I can, dude.
All
That's
three of those series are made by the same
That's gonna be
animation
so
company.
fucking dope. The fact that Chainsaw Man is I'm actually surprised you didn't put a Record of Ragnarok on your list
It's getting an anime.
by Mappa.
No, by I think Fox or Searchlight. I'm not sure.
But yeah, my number one is Eden, obviously.
Well, I mean, like that's definitely one that I feel like that would get awards if it was made. You know, especially if it was done by a very I guess like a I wouldn't you wouldn't need a super dynamic team to do it. You just
Mhm.
need a team that can handle like doing like really pretty art. It's a very
Yeah,
detailed series,
it's not so
and
much.
it needs people to work on it.
Yeah, it's not so much like beauty and motion as beauty and stillness. Like I feel like there's a lot of like still shots that are just gonna require like a very painterly hand to really pull off.
Okay, so
Best.
yeah, I guess Record of Ragnarok is being made by some weird small company that I've never heard of. They're a offshoot of Gonzo. That's all I know.
All right. Well,
I would definitely want like I don't know if I could have anybody do Eden though. I'd probably want like the same people who did that one series. Uh, it was on Netflix for a bit. I'll come back to that. I'll find out that story. I'll come back to that. Let's
okay.
move on.
So best mangaka, which is a author of manga. So this one's probably like my least subjective list because I actually did factor in like influence. But my requirement was also like I couldn't pick like the writer of Astro Boy or some shit because I've never read Astro Boy. It has to be at least like manga authors that I've read. But I definitely took into account like cultural like cachet and like cultural influence and manga influence. But like I put Naoki Urasawa on my honorable mentions just because like he's so synonymous with seinen manga, and I feel really bad that I haven't read more of his stuff. I've read like half of Monster, but I haven't read Pluto yet. I haven't read 20th Century Boys. But like I need to fucking get on that because apparently he's like one of the best ever. But from what I've read of Monster, he's fucking fantastic. I put Go Nagai on there just because like he's so fucking influential, and Devilman is such a kick-ass manga. Junji Ito, just because of like how he redefined the entire horror genre and how like he's one of the few manga authors where you can recognize exactly what what author it is or what artist it is just by looking at his artwork. Like he's got such his own style. He's like the David Lynch of manga. Like there's no one that even comes close as far as like originality is concerned. My number two is Ichiro Oda, just because I he's such a fucking good writer. This is just like as far as the technical craft
The
of
man
writing.
doesn't quit.
Yeah. And as far as the technical craft of writing and building a good story and like structuring it, like the man is building a fucking skyscraper like by himself, and he has laid all of the right foundations to make sure that it does not blow over in the wind like all of the other shonen skyscrapers that have fallen before him. You know what I mean? Like that was kind of a strained analogy, but like he's looking at the ruins of like Naruto and Bleach, and he's like, "Good thing I fucking built a good foundation to this, so that's not gonna fucking happen." Um,
Well, and I also think that part of it is just his idea is so freaking gigantic that there's a lot to do.
oh yeah,
Like that's a beneficial thing too, is when you have like an idea that's like versus like
yeah. And then my number one is, I mean, if you know me, it's not surprising at all. It's Yoshihiro Togashi. Like he's got two of my favorite
you
all.
don't say.
What? Yeah, who knew? I like fucking Togashi. Um, but yeah, like he's got two of my all time favorite manga and like about 40 of my all time favorite characters. So like, yeah, he gets it. Plus the best power system in all of manga.
Second best.
Uh,
Sorry.
After what? Don't say quirks.
My my first pick of my list is of course my boy
No, no, no.
Hirohoki Araki.
What's the oh stands?
Ah.
You know I can't stand you sometimes.
How to make a stand. Open a Snapple bottle, look at this random fact, and that's your ability. Like I saw somebody put that
Pretty
down
much.
somewhere. But yeah, that was in somebody's video. They posted like JoJo's in 5 minutes. That's a pretty great video.
Yeah.
Araki, I love him because it's like the dude didn't start with JoJo's. Like he had Bow.
Hmm.
That's like a whole different thing. It's very Devilman like
Wait,
actually.
did you not put Dio on your villains list?
I didn't because he never did anything wrong.
Okay, go on.
He just saw Jonathan had a nice body and he wasn't using it, so what could go wrong?
Jonathan did have a nice body, though. I got to give him that.
Oh man, it's just like I don't know. Yeah, I mean, as far I've been trying to avoid cramming my list full of JoJos up the ass because, like, honestly,
Yeah,
I
there's been
could
a
put like,
distinct lack of JoJo's, and I'm kind of concerned.
well, like you can't use part 8 because there really isn't a villain yet.
Hmm.
In part 7, there's like too many villains.
What about
You know,
David Bowie in part 4?
Kira's a great character, but he's not like the best villain. He was just a dude who wanted to be left alone, and murder people. I mean,
There's nothing villainous about that.
nah. But I mean, like, you know, that's the thing about JoJo's though is like all the characters are very dynamic and interesting, and like you look at part 7, Steel Ball Run,
Hmm.
like you know, John, like one battle with Johnny Gyro and another character named Mandem, or not Mandem. Mandem was the name of the stand. Um, Essentially the guy's like, dude, like Zappelli, you don't have killer instinct like your friend. Like your friend's totally willing to kill people, no hesitation. Like Johnny Joestar was like a piece of shit to a certain extent. The only reason he was in the plot was so that he could try to figure out how to walk again.
Hmm.
And like that was it. Not to save people, not to do anything else. Like it's honestly why I love Hirohiki Araki, because there's no cut and dry good or bad guys all the time. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and as you get further into his series, like, yeah, Jonathan Joestar is the quintessential, oh, I'm a good boy. And then, like,
I thought
Dio is obviously a very bad guy. But then you get to part 7 and it's like, well, I just want to collect all the parts of Jesus to make sure that America is the strongest country in the world. What's wrong with that? Like, come on. And you're like, oh, United States president, it's okay. Like, no.
yeah. But that is a good point about
But
JoJo's. Like, it starts off very black and white, but they start kind of running together more as the series goes on, and like the villains become less villainous, and the heroes become, I guess, less heroic. More, it becomes grayer.
well, I mean, it's just it becomes a matter of like the author's choosing to just show us interesting motivations and where like what journeys that could lead us on than so much like
Rather than
strict moral.
some guy that just comes out and he's like, I'm fucking evil. I like to torture dogs. That's my character.
Sometimes you need those though. You
Yeah.
need those cut and dry characters, and that's
Dio
like why One Piece is great too.
Dio is the best version of the most simplistic villain archetype of just evil for evil's sake.
Like Blackbeard.
I don't
Like I
think
like Blackbeard as a villain.
I think Blackbeard's more complex than that though. I think we're gonna learn a lot more about him to like figure out why he is the way he is. Like I don't buy that he's just evil for evil's sake.
Yeah, Doflamingo and Dio are pretty similar.
Well, even Doflamingo, like he has a very clear ideology. Like he
So
has
does Dio. Dio wanted to be rich. He didn't want to die. And he just wanted to do whatever he wanted to do. Oh, and he wanted to kill the Joestars.
yeah.
Those are very solid motivations,
Fuck them Joe Stars.
especially when you're in Dio's position.
Anyway,
One of
here's
my favorite memes with Dio is like "How'd you find me?" And Joseph was like, "Well, I used Hermit." And before he could finish, Jotaro was like, "I put bitch in the GPS and it brought me here."
All right. So what's the rest of your author list look like?
I love George Morikawa. He's the author of Ippo.
Okay.
Guy puts in his work, and not only that, like he takes breaks now, but mainly because he's actually gotten like to a competent level to be able to like be a second for boxers, which then allows him to sit in the ring corner and write better and better scenes. So
That's
it's great
awesome.
synergy. Yeah, and um, of course, Oda, because the guy's work ethic's amazing. Tagashi, too. I'm not going to slight him because his art's taken a little bit of a dip here and there. He'll at least go back and redraw it, too.
Yeah.
Like, you could only do what you got to do. I love the duo that works on Bakuman Death Note. All you need is kill. They're a really great team. Um, yeah, I mean, and I guess honestly, the last one I put down is the duo that did Kanuku Man, Yoshinori Nakai and Takashi Shimada, because Kanuku Man's possibly one of the most influential series ever, and it's one of my favorite series ever.
Hmm. All right.
It's on my vintage list though, so that's why I didn't put it in the shonen list. I didn't
Okay.
try to have too much crossover.
That makes sense. My vintage list is going to be really thin, so that's going to be all you because I have not read a lot of stuff before 1985. Okay.
Yeah, I figured that that was kind of a hard, but if you say '90s,
Well,
like anything before '90s, that's
I
like
like that you came
too
up.
vague or broad.
I like that you came up with that idea though, because I feel like people need to hear more about vintage series, and I feel like I need to read more vintage series. But anyway, okay. So best artwork. Uh, did you go first last time, or did I? I think I went first. So I guess it's your
All right,
turn.
so I think the best artwork I've ever read is probably Out of Berserk by Mira. Like I can't argue it. It's the only series, like it's the only artwork I've ever seen where I've actually been like, dude, I would get that like actually on my body as a tattoo. Like and I don't know, the amount of detail in just some panels and pages. Like it's like one of those adult coloring books where it's like
Yeah, those like
not
super
a
complex ones.
square there's not even a square centimeter of the page without a line through it.
Hmm.
Like, you know, like you're like, dude, no wonder it takes a month for these chapters to come out. Well, it used to take a month. Now it takes like, I don't know, freaking half a year. But, you know, like,
Yeah. What's the good news?
good news, everybody. Apparently, our favorite stoner who just wants some White Castle has just completed filming of his participation as Spike Spiegel,
Cal Penn or John Cho?
John Cho.
Dude, John Cho's playing Spike Spiegel. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I like it. I
That's
like it.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Fuck. Anyway, so if you guys experienced a hiccup in this video, it's because there were some technical issues, so we had to kind of start again. But
A
hopefully this
digital
will
hiccup, a dick up.
a dick up. Yeah, we had a dick up. So I'm gonna have to stitch these videos together, and hopefully it'll run somewhat smoothly.
We
But
can't
as
make excuses, but we could do a funny dance. It's apology dance.
it reminds me of the little cat thing
Boom
from
para
Dorohedoro.
para. Boom para para. Boom para para.
And now I embrace the sweet welcome of death. Okay,
Make GT canon.
GT is canon, dude.
Yeah, it's alternate universe canon.
No, that is the most canon Dragon Ball. That's the only
It
one
was
I
one of
really
those
subscribe
bullshit
to.
rings when the dude opens the case and he's like, "Yeah, because of your boy Trunks, like timelines have gone fucked up, and there's like 3 or 4 extra rings because of him." And like one of those rings was apparently the GT universe. It's like, oh,
Oh,
that's funny.
I
Silly
think G
Trunks.
I think GT is better than Super.
Granola
What about
and
Granola?
cerealians. Oh, and did
Right.
you know that there's another family that contests against the Frieza race? The Heaters. Yeah.
So we were talking about best artwork.
Best artwork, yeah. That was going to Kento Moria because that guy does not quit. I feel like his
Okay.
artwork is probably the hardest to try and beat. Like, and mind you, this is somebody who does the same quality every issue. Every
Yeah.
every issue is like
That's the author of
fantastic.
Berserk, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, I mean, I Am a Hero has really good artwork as well. If we're going to talk about leaning into the realism of art, because that,
Mm.
like, you know, I like Oda's charm, and he has a certain kind of like you could say Oda when he started One Piece is different now. Of
Oh,
course,
definitely. Way
that's a
different.
very obvious statement, but like it's like his artwork now has like a specific charm. It's cartoony
Hmm.
in a very certain way, and a Oda way. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if other series took influence from it. You know, kind of like the guy who did Soul, or was it the guy who did Fairy Tale worked for the guy who did Naruto and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So it's like, you know, you pick up on stuff that, you know, the guy who taught you because you start drawing stuff a lot.
Hmm.
But that I don't know with Mira, like he makes you feel like the pits of darkness along with like hope. It like the feeling that you get from those, like it's like a hard earned wait to get those chapters to see that art. And that's why I think it's like a special occurrence. It's a delicacy. And that's why I think he has the best art. It's
Gotcha.
partially because of the fact that we only get so much of it. If he was doing Berserk on a weekly basis, we wouldn't get the same quality. The same
Mm.
with Iraqi. Like it was down the middle for me about whether who was better between Mura or Iraqi.
Araki is
And
definitely up there.
Iraqi, someone who proved that you could start off with just kind of generic artwork. Like he even says, like I just drew buff guys at the time because that's what was popular. And then what ends up happening, he ends up going to Italy, studying how to draw classical stuff. Like so my best artist is like a 50-50 between Mura and Iraqi, because one thing I like to also point out is like Mura's also had the same quality since he started.
Yeah, he's
If
always been
anything,
great.
it's better. Whereas like I love Iraqi because he straight up is like champion. Like he had his art at the Louvre, and
Hmm.
like he was somebody who started off like just drawing and he never stopped practicing. He's still learning. He still has reference materials and he goes outside of his comfort zone into like areas that most manga artists wouldn't go into to do that.
Yeah, like he's gotten better. Like every JoJo's part looks better than the last one, which is crazy. The fact that he's maintained that high level of quality and has gotten better and improved his craft as he goes.
I don't know if you're aware, but if you go on Netflix right now, they just updated and added a part 4 OVA.
Yeah, we
Well,
were
a four
talking about
part.
it. We were
Yeah.
talking about it the other day.
Yeah.
The Thus Spoke Kashibi Rohan.
And it's very, the David Productions went with like a halfway part 4, halfway part 5 artwork for it, which
Gotcha.
makes sense because that's what their animators are used to.
Hmm.
But I mean, I'm
But
pretty sure
but
Dust
his
Spoke
artwork in
Kishibe
the
Rohan.
manga was like he wrote
I'm,
that around like part 7, right? So it was more
yeah,
that
I'm pretty sure.
style.
But I
Okay.
mean, like, that's crazy that you could dictate which kind of art style this guy had depending on the part. I mean, that's kind of the benefit of breaking your series up into parts. That's why I give Oda a lot of credit.
Mhm.
He's been doing something like for 1,000 chapters, and I think JoJo's like at 900 and something chapters because it slowed
Wow.
down from weekly to monthly. So One Piece caught up and overtook it in amount of chapters.
Yeah.
But like Oda's like cranking it out so fast that it's impressive to see his artwork improve
Hmm.
and change, and he doesn't even take really that many breaks, which means that he has to like figure out like these adjustments on the fly.
Yeah, and he does these crazy splash pages. Like that arrival at Onigashima, that page was so fucking detailed.
I am a sucker for splash pages. Like
Yeah.
you give me two full pages of just something great.
Hmm.
I I think the only other author, like I think essentially these like Araki, Oda, and Mura are the only authors where I'd actually openly display just straight out of context panels around my house as posters and artwork. Just like, why is this guy standing in a suit of armor while this girl's huddled up on the ground and like there's just dust everywhere? And I'm like, well, it's beautiful because if you go down the hallway, you see the page before it where that girl is about to be overtaken by a bunch of demons. And the way
Yeah.
Mira does it is there's chaos everywhere. Then the following page is just a whirlwind of destruction. And then the following page is just the calm in the middle of the storm where Guts
Mm.
finally stands there. It's just like, I'm here. And it's like one of those moments where I tear up. Like I won't actually cry while reading Berserk, but there are like moments where like there's like a lot of points where I'm just like, man, like I don't like going on the Berserk subreddit because of a lot of the jokes they make on Guts, because I'm like, damn it, he's actually a character I genuinely feel for. He's a guy who's like taken it on the chin more times in every freaking way possible.
Hmm. Oh
And he
yeah,
just wants to be left alone. Like
he's like a
honestly,
perpetual victim. His
if you
life,
could make
like,
Berserk a live action, Sam Raimi would do it, and he would keep that heart and soul in it. I know it.
oh,
The
would you have to?
suffering of the character. He knows how to make a character suffer and to make it actually feel like you could empathize. I don't know. Sam Raimi's kind of got a heart with that. Like,
He
Doc
does.
Ock was a villain that you could feel for. You know,
Dark Man.
he did Darkman.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, if anything should get a manga adaptation, it should be Darkman. So
Dark
then the
Man would.
Japanese know who Darkman is.
I feel like the Japanese would love Dark Man.
I feel like they would too. Like the whole,
Yeah.
especially like, wasn't it Liam Neeson was Darkman?
Yeah, Liam Neeson was Dark Man.
Liam Neeson, the guy who trained the Batman,
The he
is the
trained the
Dark Man.
Batmans.
The Dark Knights was trained by the Dark Man. I never put that together.
Yeah.
All right, but that's
Anyway,
what I love though about it is because like,
what's
oh
your
yeah, go
honorable
ahead.
mentions for artwork?
Artwork. All right, I love Toriko.
Okay.
It's fun, and the author says that his biggest influences were like Fist of the North Star and like Dragon Ball Z.
Dude,
Dragon Ball
Fist of
Z
the
is
North
also
Star
one.
wasn't on either of our lists
No,
anywhere.
it's
That's
been
pretty
on my list.
crazy.
It's part of my vintage list.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
very excellent
But,
villains in that series as well, but it's part of the vintage list. So,
okay.
um, yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like there's a convergence. Uh, we now have artists that are coming out. Like, I feel like even the most generic series that come out nowadays, their art's going to be just because, the market's getting so competitive now and the techniques are getting different. The influences are changing, it's crazy. Um, so when I look at best art, I kind of look at like, you know, I find it really awesome as seeing these guys who have a great story to tell, but they're not particularly artists. None of them are going to be like Leonardo da Vinci, but
Yeah.
seeing them improve. And that's why I picked, Araki and Oda. And I have to mention Mira because like, he's just masterclass. Like that's beautiful art. Like,
Yeah.
but I mean, like, I love the author of Toriko's art. I mean, I'll even say that Naruto's artist is really good. Uh,
Hmm. I think Kishimoto has his strengths.
I mean, I like Kubo for his like style. He's got like this slick kind of like cool like
Okay.
teenager style.
I would put Kubo above Kishimoto just because like I feel like Kishimoto's art was really good, and it just kind of started getting boring once everyone was wearing flak jackets. Like all the characters designs became kind of samey.
And I get that. Like,
Yeah.
but it's like all the designs. Yeah,
Yeah.
that becomes a difficult thing.
But then
Uh,
Kubo's got that thing where his character designs are incredible, but his backgrounds are completely barren.
Well, I mean, also like that comes down to like delegation of staff and like
Yeah.
whether he probably had the chance to probably pay someone for backgrounds, or I don't know how
Yeah,
that works.
and I think
Or maybe the backgrounds being too intricate would distract from his characters.
I
Like
think
you don't want to diminish the strengths by adding too many things on it.
I think thematically it worked for like Hueco Mundo, where it was like this vast desert of nothing. But for
Yeah,
somewhere like Soul Society, I just always felt that like it should be a little bit more detailed.
yeah, and we get back to like, and then after that it goes just back to the town. So
Mhm.
they're able to like reuse a lot. Like these characters have been standing over the same building for the past 30 minutes.
Yeah, exactly,
I get that.
exactly. There's a lot of squares.
Yeah, One Piece definitely does that different. Like you look at the
Mhm.
background of One Piece chapter, you could pretty much use damn near most like background art of One Piece to be Mario levels.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
wouldn't be bad.
Whole Cake Island and fucking
Yeah.
Punk
and,
Hazard
and
and
that's one thing that's great is like Whole Cake Island is like Willy Wonka and like freaking Gecko Moria is like Halloween Town
yes.
like Tim
I
Burtonville.
dude,
Like
I
each
love
part
Thriller
has
Bark.
like such a each island has so much character to it.
It's got
It's
its own
amazing. Like
flavor, yeah.
Alabasta is like
It's like
obviously
Egypt,
like yeah,
like ancient
Alabasta's
Egypt.
Egypt, and they talk about how like like colonization and imperialism and foreign agencies and all that trying to intervene and sway this personal government. Like,
And then Dressrosa is more like ancient Greece, right? That's kind of what they were going for. Because they got the
uh,
Colosseum and they got like the same armor style. It's like either Greek or Roman.
Yeah, I'd say probably more Roman. Like,
Yeah.
it was probably on the because I don't know. Dressrosa is interesting because like Doflamingo Don Quixote seems like very Spanish. Like he,
Yeah.
seems more Spanish, but it definitely seems like a country that was
But
weakened
but
that
but
had
crocodile isn't a traditional Egyptian name, so I mean you can't really
yeah
go based on what.
Nile crocodile. The Nile River has crocodiles in it. That's why he was in the desert. That was the shtick. It's like Nile crocodiles are very well known.
You know what's
You
kind of
learn something
ironic?
new every day.
The fact that crocodile has he hasn't seen us for a while. After a while, crocodile.
I hope we see him again.
I hope we see him again too.
Same with Aokiji. I have high hopes. I keep pointing out to people that I think honestly, it's really weird to think about his
We're
inspiration.
definitely gonna see Aokiji again. Like he's part of the plot. Like he's in there.
Well, there's a big theory that he's part of Sword, which is like Garp's secret organization,
That would make
which makes
sense.
you wonder like so he battled Akainu for like what is it, the head at Sengoku's job?
Yeah, Fleet
But
Admiral.
like I think what happened was like if he would have got that job, a job that Garp could easily have,
Yeah,
but Garp doesn't take because being an admiral means that you're a puppet to the Gorosei.
yeah, and he's a
So
D. He's the enemy of the Gorosei.
yeah, and he stays at his position because it's a prime position to have just enough power to sway things while also be able to move his agents around. I don't know, Drake. But yeah, I don't know. That's I don't know. Aokiji's interesting because he loses that battle instead of becoming fleet admiral, he becomes a Blackbeard pirate.
Well, he's kind of allied with the Blackbeard pirates. I don't think he's part of the crew. And I think even Jesus Burgess warned that like we've got like a tenuous alliance with this guy. So we don't know why he's allying himself with the Blackbeard pirates, but like he's probably undercover in some capacity. Or they're working toward mutual goals. Like he needs Blackbeard to help him eliminate someone else who's a bigger threat right now. But we'll see. We'll see
Yeah,
how that all plays out. All right.
I
So
mean that's part of it.
for
Oh,
my
now we're on to best character development. Or wait,
I've,
you still need to
wait,
do best art.
yeah. So best art for me, I had One Punch Man. Obviously, that's in there. Yusuke Murata, he's amazing.
Oh
I
yeah,
had I had Akira on there just because of how fucking detailed it is.
I was gonna put that down too, but I don't know why I didn't.
I have One Piece just because of like how much Ichiro Oda's art has evolved and developed and how incredible it looks like in this current era and how detailed it is for being a weekly series. Like that's freaking crazy. Battle Royale, I just love that smooth, realistic look that the artist was able to get. Eden, It's an Endless World. Like some of the stills in there are so beautiful and detailed and deep and layered. And then number one, it's Berserk. Like, come on, it's got to be Berserk.
No, I love all your picks. I mean,
Yeah,
these lists were very hard to do.
and we came up
Like,
with a lot of the same number ones. Like our honorable mentions are different, but we kind of came to a consensus on a lot of what like the best mangas in each category were.
and it's hard because like I would argue like Ashita no Joe has really good artwork in some parts,
Mm-hmm.
but like it's dated.
Yeah,
Or like even there's scenes in Kanuka Man that I'm like, wow, that was really great. That is a really excellent,
yeah,
but it's not like a fight scene by definition.
exactly.
But yeah,
Um,
like I do like that there's a lot of crossover. I mean, you were the one who got me into reading this stuff in the first place, so it's kind of
into
funny
reading
that
manga?
you're like, yeah,
Oh yeah, I guess I was. Yeah, because you kind of liked anime beforehand, but you didn't like really get into it until high school.
I had a friend in middle school that liked Full Metal Alchemist a lot,
Hmm.
which is not something that's popped up on our list because I
Yeah,
figured it'd be way too easy to pick. It is an excellent series, definitely top shonen,
I,
definitely excellent art, supporting cast material. Like that is an excellent series. I was just
yeah,
trying to get uh I don't know. I've been unsuccessful about it, but I've been trying to get more highlighting or spotlights on other series. Like
Yeah.
Kinnikuman.
And FMA is so good and it's just such a well-rounded series, but it doesn't really have like it doesn't excel in any particular like area, I guess. Where it's like everything about it is kind of like equally like excellent that like I couldn't pick a specific element to be like it has one of the best villains because I think all the villains are pretty good. I don't think any of them like are like one of the best in all of manga. The character growth of the Elrics, very very good, didn't quite make my like my list my list of like top protagonists or top characters or whatever. Um yeah, same thing with Rurouni Kenshin for me, honestly, where it's like
Yeah,
so solid all around, but doesn't stick out in any one particular area. Like though I almost put Shishio on my best villains list.
yeah. I almost did too. You know.
Yeah.
Um, I think that was probably it. Like I was thinking Shishio or Sensui. And it was like
Yeah.
a 50-50 between those for like 2 or 3 days. I was like, Yu Hakusho or Ray Catcher. Oh, no.
Anyway, so I think the next category is best supporting cast, right?
Character development.
Wait, was it we did we have supporting cast on there?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so you want to do character development next?
We do supporting cast next.
Okay,
You want to go first?
sure. I'll go first on this one. So for supporting cast, honorable mentions, Death Note, because I love the entire group dynamic between all of them, like in the fucking police department. Dragon Ball, because like it just has so many iconic characters.
Oh yeah, like
Um,
Oolong.
yeah, like Oolong or
Nobody
Boss
gives a shit
Carrot.
about Oolong anymore, but Oolong's hilarious.
Boss
Box
Carrot was pretty good. Remember Boss
Boss Carrot.
Carrot? Boss Carrot.
Yeah,
Boss Carrot was
that's like
dope.
early freaking Dragon Ball.
Fucking what was that guy? The dude that was I can't remember his name. Oh, the mummy guy. He's cool. He's one of my favorite Dragon
Yeah.
Ball characters.
Remember
Yeah.
when just stereotypes of horror movies were like significant villains against Goku? Like, who are we gonna make Goku fight next? Let's make him fight a swamp monster. Oh, come on, man! Like we've already made him fight gods and aliens. That
yeah.
just is ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Go back about 30 years ago and see who Goku fought. Frankenstein. Yeah, for real.
But yeah, like in all seriousness, like Krillin, fucking Vegeta, Piccolo, Gohan, all fantastic characters.
Oh man, Dragon Ball.
Yamcha's okay too.
I've avoided talking about Dragon Ball so much on my list because, like,
Even
down to
Bulma.
it,
Bulma's great.
Bulma's like one of the best characters. She's like
Yeah.
stuck. She's been there like firsthand in the shit all over the place, constantly being like fucking pissed off that she's stuck in all these stupid adventures. Like it's
And
great.
she goes through so much growth and maturity, but in such a subtle way. They don't really show it, but we just kind of see her age and her it like you see so many different like I think that's what I love about Dragon Ball so much, that you see these characters at so many different ages, but like they never go through these radical character changes. You just kind of see like perpetually older versions of them and watch them kind of mature and change before our eyes. And I think Dragon
Like
Ball's like
Bulma before having kids, you could see like how she had a difference after having kids.
yeah, she used to be a little bit more feisty. She was a little bit more ditzy, and she kind of like smoothed over like the less savory aspects of her personality
But
and
it's
kind
like
of.
such a great thing where all Toriyama did was just change how she dealt with situations.
Mhm.
And like he just programmed like that honest, like natural kind of flow to maturity where she's like, you can't just go into space whenever you want and train when you have a kid.
Yeah,
Like, come on. Or like what I think of honestly is one of my favorite versions of Bulma is Future Bulma, where
oh
she's
yeah,
like dealing with the shittiest end of everything. She's still optimistic, and she Bulma is always somebody who hated cheesy, corny stuff, and then like she names her time machine Hope.
Ha,
Like it's like character growth. Like she's willing to be corny for her kid, shit
yeah,
like that. Also, fun fact, that funny jacket that Trunks wears, that's obviously too short for him.
yeah.
That's Bulma's jacket. That's why
Like
it's
from
too small for him, because he's wearing his mom's jacket.
like from earlier in Dragon Ball, was it shown beforehand?
I'm not sure, but they say that
Hmm,
it's from his mom. That's why it's so small. So
I
he's
like
wearing a
that.
lady's jacket. But it's like that's why I like Bulma even
Trunks,
more,
that's a
because
girl's
like
name.
when
Princess
Princess
Trunks.
from now on you will only refer to him as Princess Trunks. What?
I love
Princess Trunks, you lied to me, you dirty boy. Goku, please get me off the planet.
that.
Team 4 Star, we love you. Keep doing stuff. I love your new
Yeah.
stuff that you've come out, like the fight me with Vegeta and Gohan. That was hilarious.
Yeah, Team 4 Star is fucking awesome. I think we could all
See,
agree on
that's
that.
that's why I've been kind of omitting certain series like Dragon Ball. I admit that from my list because I'm like, well, fuck that. That was like my third dad that raised me. Like, you know, like I don't know. And there's probably kids that
Dragon
like I
Ball
know
has so
little,
many shitty dads too.
except for Piccolo.
Except for Piccolo. The weird alien bug monster that thought he was a demon for
And
years
and as
turns out
far
to
as
be the best
supporting
dad.
cast goes, everybody jokes like that meme where it's like with JoJo's where it's like we were bad, now we're good. It turned out we were misunderstood, and it's like Dragon Ball's been doing that too, where it's like I like I love when what was it one character asked Goku why he doesn't kill people because
Uh-huh.
everybody's like, why does Goku not kill people? I'm like, oh, why doesn't, I don't know, Superman or Batman or any other fictional hero not kill people? Because, like, I guess that's a heroic quality is solving solutions
Well,
without killing people.
Goku
He
does
kills the
kill. So
shit out of people.
this is a misunderstanding of the Goku character that everybody has that I don't get. He doesn't have moral qualms against killing people. He just one he only does it as a last resort. He doesn't want to do it if he doesn't have to. And two, he let Vegeta go not because he didn't want to kill him, but because he wanted to fight him again. He told
Yeah,
Krillin,
like,
he's like, no, no, like leave him alive. Like I want the rematch. And Krillin's like, what the fuck are you talking about? But Krillin
it
let him
was,
go out of his respect for Goku.
I
Goku's
know you
kind
don't
of pretty
read,
selfish.
I know you don't read the Super manga too much,
Not really.
but it was a conversation between Miras. You love Miras as a character. He's great. He's just like a super good cop. Like he's really good at being a galactic cop or a
Mm,
galactic patroller. So like he brings Goku and Vegeta along as like, hey, you could do a ride along, and shows them like how even if they're super crazy martial artists, he like solves problems without having to be as powerful as them.
yeah.
Problems that they normally wouldn't be able to. Like sure they could destroy a planet, but does that stop bank robbers? So he
Not
starts to
really.
add a scale to it. But he has a
Sorry, I'm
conversation
getting
with
tired.
Goku. Oh yeah, no worries. But he has a conversation with Goku. He's like, why don't you kill people? And he's like, well, I think of it this way: if I beat them, then I beat them. It's done. Like I stopped them. So killing them, like, yeah, sure, I could do that, but it doesn't matter because if they try to beat me again, I'll just beat them again and stop them.
Yeah, and that was the thing with Frieza, where like Frieza was so pathetic in that moment that Goku's
Oh, I
like, hey,
think I
look,
think yeah, I think that's he
the
asked why he
fight's
let Frieza
over.
live.
Yeah, he's like, yeah,
Yeah.
the fight's over. Like I already defeated him. I already know I'm stronger than him. There's no reason to push it any farther. It's like
Well, half of that fight was Frieza fucking himself too. Like he
yeah,
was the one who cut himself in half. Like Goku,
true.
but after you cut yourself in half, that's like throwing a punch and accidentally eye poking yourself
Yeah.
in UFC.
That's like the
Like you eye
guys
poke
that
yourself, and they're like,
no,
who do we give the ticket to?
that's like the guy. There was a guy that fucking took his opponent down and slammed him to the ground, but banged his own head against the canvas and knocked himself out. That happened to Gray Maynard.
I want to watch that. You gotta send me a link to that.
I'll send you a link to that. But afterwards, he was confused at why he didn't win the fight. And they're like, Gray, you knocked yourself out, bro.
I threw everything I had into that attack. Yeah, we know,
Yeah.
bud. You were out for a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so my next one is gonna be for best supporting cast. I got Naruto just because like that's one of those series where like the supporting cast is infinitely better than the main cast. The main cast is fucking annoying and stupid.
I actually
Um,
went back, or I actually went and watched an episode of the sequel Boruto the other day.
Mhm.
because I heard there's an episode where it's just Naruto and Kiba running around town trying to find a toy for Naruto's daughter.
Aw,
And like I was like, okay, I
I
have
like
to
that.
watch this. And Naruto's like exhausted from working so much, like, being the boss, that he's like he tries to summon shadow clones to like help him with the search, and they just appear like lazy, like passed out. And he's like, I gotta do this on foot. But don't worry, I'm in charge of everything around here. People will help me out. And like literally as he says that, a guy runs by him, he's like, get the fuck out of the way, asshole. And he's just like, and his own daughter's like, nobody recognizes you, dad. You don't go out in public enough for people to know who you are. And he's just like, oh. And it's just kind of funny to see like this annoying little kid character that we saw grow up slightly for a few
Yeah,
years.
to be the Hokage now, and
Well, just to see him be like a dad who gets home from work exhausted, like all I need to do is sleep. I haven't slept in days. And like he sees his daughter sleeping at the base of the door, like, what's wrong? She's like, well, I was waiting for you to get home so we could go have fun on family day. And he's like, that's why I get to come home today.
see,
It's
I
a
like that.
holiday. And yeah, so it's like filler for other people. Like, I don't want to watch this. I want to see Boruto do stuff. And I'm like,
But
it's
that's
not
nice.
for you. It's for me, the guy
Yeah,
who
that's
read Naruto and
yeah,
wants to
but
see him be adult stuff.
that's like if you're following the character, that should be the most satisfying thing because now he just like he's a dad that loves his kids and he's dealing with problems that are good to have that everybody can relate to at that age. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so then my next one's gonna be Hunter x Hunter for like obvious reasons, like Hisoka, Illumi, Crollo, like
And the fact that you could
the,
have a protagonist interchange with any side character and
yeah,
follow the camera over their shoulder, and they're a main character. They're all that well
exactly.
developed.
And every character is living their own genre, like which is so fucking cool.
I would
Like
just read a whole Hisoka manga.
yeah.
Like honestly, who wouldn't?
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
or the spiders. What are they called? The
The Phantom Troop.
Phantom Troop. Like they weren't the most interesting, but they're still fun to read about. And
Dude, I
like
love the spiders.
Kurapika is like probably my favorite protagonist of Hunter x Hunter right
Kurapika's
now.
amazing. Yeah.
Honestly, it's
Now
been
that it's
really
now
fun
that
with
it
Kurapika being the lead because I
yeah,
went
now
back
that
and
it's
started
the
rereading it
Kurapika
before
show,
that.
like yeah, the
I'm
fact that
like,
we have Kurapika as the lead now is just so fucking cool. Like I love that. And it's because it's changed the structure of the manga. Like it's become a different manga now that Kurapika is the main character because it's like he's living a completely different story than Gon and Killua are.
they were like shonen tropes, best friends, and Kurapika's like, all right, I'm like ace attorney, bodyguard, diplomat, political intrigue. Yeah, this is gonna be the prequel.
Crime drama.
Yeah, it's like the prequel
And it's all
trilogy of
on a
Star
cruise
Wars for
ship.
Hunter x Hunter.
um I don't know. I just like that it's on a cruise ship. Like you have
Hey,
all of
we at
those
least know that it
genres.
resolves with a probably most insane battle arc possible once they get or survive. It probably will become a survival series once the boat lands.
If the boat ever lands.
Yeah, for real.
What if they just hit a rock and the boat sinks and that's the end of the series?
What was it? So Hunter x Hunter's world set up similar to Toriko's,
Yeah.
where it's like, oh, the human world's only like a little part. And at one point, Toriko's like, you know what? I'm gonna go the dangerous part, and he goes in, and like it straight up says in a box, Toriko lasted 3 minutes or like 30 seconds, and this is like he's essentially like Goku at end of Dragon Ball level, beginning of Dragon Ball. Like he's a decently powerful character that people entrust like their lives in. He's like a hero to like thousands upon hundreds of thousands of people. They know his strength,
Mhm.
and he goes into the gourmet world for like 30 seconds to a few minutes and almost dies. Like the series almost ended until this guy who's like usually drunk shows up and saves him. And he's just like, oh man, like I don't even drink when I come here. This shit's scary. You actually came out here, man. You're a pussy though. Like you can't survive out here. And he's like, but I'm the main character of the series. And he's like, that doesn't change shit. Like you're not even like top 1,000 on the food chain out here. Like
The food
get back
chain.
to the yeah.
Was
Also,
that
that's why I
intentional?
love Toriko is like literally the power structure is just the food chain. Whoever's at the top of the pyramid, they're the strongest.
Yeah. Okay, so my final number one best supporting cast in all of manga. It's One Piece. Like, dude, like how many fucking amazing characters are in that manga?
Are they really a supporting cast though? I feel
I
like
feel I feel like
they're all players in a play.
I feel
That's
like
the thing about Oda is like every character is significant
the
for the
entire
most part.
world the entire world is the supporting cast. Like I don't know, like I feel
Like
like the
Laboon,
supporting yeah. No, Laboon's the only main character.
I think Laboon is One Piece. I think it'd be funny if like
They just
that
go
was
all the way around.
Roger's looking at this thing. It's like in 20 years a whale will be born and it'll be pretty dope, and that's a secret treasure of the world. And Roger's like, huh, that's stupid.
I would
Whatever.
be I would be okay with Laboon being the One Piece.
I mean, Brooke was right all along.
Yeah.
Well,
Anyway,
Laboon is One Piece for Brooke. Yeah,
and then
my favorite Straw Hat Pirate.
for you, best supporting cast.
All right. So I'm gonna say that my favorite supporting cast will probably be Kanika Man, because it's the one that started it all.
Okay.
The whole like your villain can be your ally and all that stuff. Like there was a lot of that going on. It was probably the first series to do that kind of stuff. Like you'd have a character who outright was like, I just took a human being and split him in half like like that, and then blood comes out, and you're like, oh dude, that guy's not gonna be a hero. And you look at like I look over at you and I'm like, don't you fucking say anything about Ramen Man. Ramen Man's the shit.
I like that his name
Like,
is Ramen Man.
yeah. So, it's
Wait, so what's the plot of Kanuka Man? Because it's like pro wrestling, right?
no,
Oh, I thought it was. What
it's
is
not
it?
about wrestling at all.
I thought it was about wrestling. They have
It's about
those luchador
heroes.
masks. Oh, gotcha. Okay.
They're all superheroes, but the way they do combat is they use a wrestling ring and they fight using techniques
Okay.
from wrestling because that's the author's basis of combat. Just like Dragon Ball goes based off of like what the Toriyama thinks happens in martial arts movies.
Yeah.
These guys go based off of watching professional wrestling. So that's why Kinetic Man's the freaking shit. Because you'll have a guy show up in chapter 4 who literally flies in a freaking spandex leotard, like, or a thong, or not even a thong. Like he shows up in like just the underpants part of the outfit and a
Mm.
cowboy hat, pulls a revolver out of nowhere, shoots a monster in the face, blows it to like a bunch of pieces. All the Japanese people are like, "Oh, thank goodness you showed up! Our hero here, Kanuka Man, sucks." And he's like, "My name's Terry Man. I'm an American from Texas. So who's gonna pay me for this?" And they're like, "Pay?" And he's like, "I don't know how things work out here in all your commie countries, but out where I come from, you pay for services due." And like, yeah, Terry Man's one of the best characters in Kanuku Man. Like, honestly, he's like the number two, you know, Kanuku Man's gonna make it out of this fight okay, because guess who tagged in last minute? Terry Man, dude, like 3/4 of the way through the series. But when he was first introduced, he was just some dickhead Texas dude who showed up, shot a monster in the face, charged Japan a bunch of money. And then Kanuka Man's like, I may live broke and off of just rice most of the time, but I still help people. And Terry Man's like, you know what? You're all right. I'm going to be a normal hero that does things for people, no problem. And then he starts taking up most of his business. For a while, most of the series is just Kanuka Man being spiteful against other heroes for being more popular than him. It starts
Oh,
moving into the crazy wrestling stuff because they needed a basis for like pitting powers against each other. And then people really digged it and then it started rolling into it. That's why I think if any series deserves a modern revival, it needs to be Kanika Man.
I would like to
Like
see
by
like
a
a
well done
live.
series.
Imagine like a live action Netflix Kaniku Man with like the hammiest actors that you could find.
I mean, you could get just wrestlers to do it.
Yeah,
Why not? Like it would be fun. Like I don't know, Kanika Man's one of those series where supporting cast, it's one of my favorite. There's so many characters to love from it. It's so old and dated. Like I don't know, it was a series that I honestly didn't give a lot of investment or caring to, and then all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute. So the guy who does JoJo's loves referencing this series called Kanuku Man which translates to meat man or muscle man.
Yeah.
And then I realized I was like, oh, that's the series with the wrestlers, Ultimate Muscle.
Yeah.
And then
Because
I
I aired
realized
on
like
4Kids a
Ultimate,
little bit.
and I realized I was like, no, wait, Ultimate Muscle is actually the sequel. It's like
Yeah.
the Boruto to Kanuku Man. Kanuku Man's the actual original. And when you go back and read it, it's just like so weird. Like one of the best villains in it is a dude who's literally just a blender walking with biceps and like super yoked legs, and he's just like, all right, guess what? And like he kicks Kanuku Man like in the dick and throws him into his blender and blends him, and he dies. And they're
Wait,
just
so
like,
Kanuku Man dies?
yeah, it's also a comedy series. It's a gag. So like
Okay,
he'll die
so he
multiple
doesn't
times
stay
and just
dead.
come back. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that sounds like some
ridiculous.
Rick and Morty shit. Like,
It's insane. It's
that's out
literally
there.
like rule of
Uh,
cool, rule of funny. That's it. And that's what I love about it, because it's just like, who cares? Like Looney Tunes. Like back in the day, they didn't care. They're like, we have a medium where we don't need to be realistic. I feel like it's kind of funny nowadays where they try to take ridiculous concepts and realize them. Like,
dude, okay,
oh, well,
no,
of course I can make fire come out of nowhere when I snap my fingers, because when I snap my fingers, my skin's made out of 20% more carbon, graphite, blah blah, and I, yeah,
what
you
if what
know,
if they
like
did what if they did a live action Kanuku Man directed by Stephen Chow? Like, because that sounds like right up his alley as far as sense of humor.
I'd watch it. I like Stephen Chow.
I like Stephen Chow too. I like the God of Cookery.
I think Stephen Chow would do an awesome live action Record of Ragnarok.
Oh, oh,
Just
okay.
just style, simplify the plot, crazy fight scenes.
Yeah. Okay. Who are your honorable mentions for supporting cast?
All right, my honorable mentions would be Jujutsu Kaisen. That's a
Okay.
recent one that I've gone into. I love Gojo. It's like you take a Kakashi who's just like kind of a laid back character who's OP,
Hmm.
and you cover both of his eyes and you make him way more lazy and way more powerful.
Okay.
Really fun. One Punch Man. I love like One
Yeah.
Punch Man is nothing but supporting cast, really. Like Saitama is an amazing character, but we love it when Puri Puri Prisoner comes on scene, or Geno starts having a monologue against like Sonic, and Sonic's just like, I have my own intentions. Like it's seeing those dumb plots play out. Oh, One Punch Man
Watchdog
staples
Man is
on.
still my favorite.
Yes. Somebody farted. um, uh, I think I had to single down. JoJo's is excellent in supporting cast.
Yeah.
You can't have a JoJo's without having a bunch of red shirts that are really fun to hear talk and see do stuff.
Mhm.
But I had to single it out, and I think part 4 is my favorite one as far as Joe Bros go, which would be supporting cast. I think
Okay.
I think I love the way the cast like works with each other and all have their own kind of lives and semblance of uniqueness that part 4
Mhm.
gives. Whereas
Oh
like
yeah,
all the
definitely.
other parts, they're on a singular mission. Part 4 seems to be like instances happen and they have similar moral guidance that causes them to come together. And that's what I like more about part 4 supporting cast than the others. Like nobody's set on a train to go to a goal. Like they're all just kind of just doing stuff and stuff happens, and they're all like good people or not quite as good people or bad people that react to it.
Mhm.
But those are my honorable mentions for right now. I mean, there are definitely a lot of series where like their main character isn't their strength, so you'd say it has a really good supporting cast. But I mean, when you weigh them all together, it's like the cast that I prefer or I like. Those would be the
I,
ones
I
that I prefer.
I feel like Dorohedoro has to be up there as well too, right?
Oh yeah, definitely top 10 for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Doro. I mean, I love supporting cast from Dragon Ball. Those are all the fun
Yeah.
guys, fun characters.
Oh, definitely.
My Hero. I mean, My Hero has a lot of characters that are very interesting, and all that. But yeah, I mean, definitely, I feel like part 4 of JoJo's is one where like even like watching the Spoke Rohan Kishibe recently. It's just great to see like Josuke show up, or not Josuke, Okiyasu show up again. Like what? That's insane. I'm like, fuck yeah, Josuke. Or not, Okiasu. Fuck yeah, we're here. You get to see back of Josuke's head in an episode. That's pretty cool.
Oh,
Doesn't say anything. He just kind of pops up. Like, right?
so I want to save best character growth for last. So let's jump right into best vintage series. And the only ones that I have on here are like Akira, Devilman, and like maybe Dragon Ball because it technically started before 1985. But you have the floor for this one because this is your category.
So, Kanuku Man's my number one.
Okay.
I've already explained that.
Yeah.
If you haven't read Kanuku Man, go read it. It's fun, and
It's
there's so much to go through,
the
and the
podcast is called
translations are,
Read the Manga.
yeah, like go check it out because there's a lot going for it, and it's still going. They're still making new chapters of Kanuku Man. Like the author's still making new chapters right now. Except I'm pretty
Holy
sure it
shit.
gets released in the Playboy, the Japanese Playboy magazine. That's where it gets released in.
It's been going since the 70s, right?
Yep. But yeah,
Damn.
it's essentially released in Playboy now for
Wow.
Japan, which is great. Um, it's hilarious. It makes sense. It's a proper maturity rating for it. But yeah, that'd be my first one for vintage series. Of course, any Gundams, all the Gundams are great. In fact, I think one of the easiest ways to get into older series is probably go check out like an older Gundam series because they're just so ridiculous, and it's like watching Star Wars. Like, it's in its own demographic ballpark genre, space robots,
Yeah, and
dated.
it was like one of the it is like the master text for robot manga basically.
If there was a lot more manga for Gundam, then I would be listing it more on
Yeah.
here. It's really hard. Mecha seems to be something more animation does
Yeah,
because you rely on the movements of the mecha.
definitely the weight and everything and like you want to see giant robots fighting each other in like full color.
Yeah, like I just watched Promare. That was a Studio Trigger movie that essentially took like a similar premise as Fire Force, where it's firefighters fight supernatural pyrokinetic people, and that series just was crazy phenomenal with like the mechas and the fighting and stuff like that. It's a trigger thing, so you're mostly in it for
Yeah.
like the snappy soundtrack and the fact that like there's constantly something going on. um
Yeah.
but like, yeah, Gundam's a good way to start. Fist of the North Star was a series that I read. I binged that completely and I watched it, and it's an older series, but I think it holds up and I think people could still like it. I mean, it's essentially just like martial arts Mad Max,
Yeah.
Martial Max.
Marshall Max.
Ashita no Joe
Hmm.
is an honorary mention because like it's one of the quintessential like it it is one of the most is also a highly referenced series because it was one of the first series that broke people's hearts
Okay.
and very
I'm
significantly.
surprised that you put Ashita no Joe below Kinnikuman. Man.
No.
Kinnikuman Man's the best.
Yeah, for real. Like,
What are we gonna do that on the podcast?
Araki, if you're listening, thank you so much for getting me into Kaneka, man. It's like better than JoJo's, but thanks for still doing JoJo's because like that's pretty great. I mean, dude, come on, what was it? Josuke in part 8 was messing with the kid that he lives with, and he just shaved. And Josuke like used one of his bubbles to like shave his face, and then pop the bubble on the dude or on the chick. There's a sister there, and she had the Kinnikuman symbol on her forehead, made out of his beard shavings that he just flicked on her face using a stand, and it made the meat symbol on the forehead like Kinnikuman's mask. This was
That's
in
cool.
part 8, probably like 3 years ago when it was actually released. Like the dude still loves Kanuka Man into the 2010s. Like, why not? Because it's great. So yeah, Kanuka Man's my number one because if you read it, you'll understand. Kanuka Man was probably as hyped up and as popular as Dragon Ball Z or One Piece for its time. It was the one that made it probably possible to think a series could be that big and popular.
You're really selling me hard on this one, and I really want to read it. Like it sounds insane.
Docking, muscle docking. like, what are we gonna do? We're in low orbit. We're gonna grab him, put him on my shoulders, and just do a press. Ah, entering the atmosphere.
What the
Ah.
fuck? Uh, you if you do a movie of that, you got to put Terry Crews in
In
there.
one fight, and you could have Terry Crews play Terry Man.
Yes.
And like in one fight, Terry Man's fighting a guy who looks like Shiva, and he's like, I look like Shiva, but I don't have any arms. You want to know why? And he's like, why? Because I need yours. And he goes and pops Terry Man's arms out of his body, and Terry Man's arms disappear. And he's like, what? And the guy's like, I now have your arms, and you have no arms. And he's like, I guess I'm gonna have to beat him with my legs alone. Like, no hesitation. Like, all right. And then he's like, no, how are your arms beating me? And he's like, they're setting you up for a leg lock. And he beats the guy despite his arms getting stolen from him and just teleported onto the other guy's body. Like, it's that kind of stuff where like you'll start a fight and they'll be like, all right, it's gonna be a swinging ring over a volcano. And you're like, all right, cool. And they're like, yeah, but the guy you're fighting can just all of a sudden dissolve and turn into like 10 smaller versions of himself for no reason. You're like, all right, let's do this. Like you need ridiculous ability. Like one guy, apparently a hero, his power is just being a walking urinal. And what he does is he grabs the guy, pushes their face into his stomach and flushes, and they get sucked into some horrible alternate dimension that's like a sewer dimension, and they're gone forever. That's his power. He just
You remember that Key and Peele script sketch where the script doctor comes in to help punch up the script for Gremlins 2? I feel like
we'll
that
have
guy
lady
wrote Kaneko
gremlins
Man.
and we'll
Yeah.
have flying gremlins. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. That sounds like the kind of writing that Kaneko Man is doing.
I mean, like they asked children to submit ideas. Like, hey, if you ever have a funny idea for a hero, send it to us. And they're like, well, if he's just a walking toilet, and they're like, that could be
Dude,
horrifying.
One Punch Man was probably really influenced by Kaneko Man now that I think about it.
Well, One
Because of
Punch
all the
Man is
different
influenced
themed
off of
heroes and
Anpon
stuff.
Man, but Anpon Man's from the same kind of generation as like Kaneko Man.
Oh,
They're
gotcha.
both
I
old
mean,
series. Guy who made it is probably I don't know how old one
probably
is,
he's
but
probably
he's
read
probably
both of them. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so finally, last category, probably the most special category, I think, best character growth. Do you want me
A
to go
very
first on this
interesting
one?
category. All right, so first and foremost, like what
Mhm.
is your definition of character growth? Like
They are a different person at the end than they are at the beginning, and the change feels organic. And most of the time, the change is for the better, and the audience sympathizes with the character or empathizes at least and kind of goes through that change with them and sees how they arrived at who they are by the end.
I felt like
um
growth was the wrong term to pick for this one because it
okay.
limited me on that because of what you said because it's like growth like positive connotation.
Are you did you interpret it as whoever has the biggest transformation? Because that would be hilarious if we had two completely different. It's like, nah, dude, I was just
I
talking about
did.
like when
I
when the
decided.
sands turn into the Ozarus, like, dude, they fucking grow. Anyway,
So you
sorry.
go first then. My list is not changing.
um,
Number one on the list was that girl in Full Metal Alchemist with the dog.
oh
Because she
god.
grew a whole dog on her, you know?
Okay, so I guess I'll go through mine. My honorable mentions: Elijah from Eden. I think he's got an incredibly interesting journey. Watching him change from this sort of like scrappy kid to this like adult that's kind of like kept his moral compass but has like encountered and seen the worst of humanity while still remaining a good person is really really interesting. Meruem from Hunter x Hunter, he wasn't around very long, but his entire ideology flips, and you can completely see why. And it seems very organic, and it's just like he's such a great reflection of like the flaws in humanity, and his entire arc is just very like emotional and well done. Hiei from Yu Yu Hakusho, going from like a straight up like filler villain to becoming like this guy that kind of like learns the meaning of human relationships and the whole thing with him and Yukina, and as he tries to grow closer to his sister without telling her who he actually is, and like the way he slowly warms up to Yusuke and Kuwabara and Kurama and can make jokes with them and stuff, and kind of becomes a member of the team as the series goes, and then finally at the very end where he finds somebody that he wants to spend the rest of his life with. Like every single arc has a big Hiei moment and a big change in Hiei, and I think his entire fucking transformation throughout that series is incredible in a series with a ton of great character growth. Number two, Kei Kurono from Gantz. I think being this like kind of pervy asshole high schooler that's kind of like your stereotypical nice guy of like, why don't girls want to fuck me? I just because I'm a dick to them, that kind of guy. Kind of essentially finding his own purpose within the game, and like the leadership qualities and the power that was in him kind of comes out when he's put in that situation, and it takes him a long time to get there, but he actually becomes the leader of the Gantz team, and it's kind of thrust upon him because they realize that he's the most competent one, and it's kind of like him surprising himself and him realizing that he's a better, stronger person than he ever thought he was. And I think that's done very organically and very naturally, while he still kind of keeps his dickishness. I think
Like when
Gantz
he
is a
clones himself, technically, or runs
yeah,
into. And he, wait,
but
what do you mean I can't go to our girlfriend's house? Hey, man, think of it this way: you go hang out with that other chick, you're technically lucky.
oh
Dude,
yeah,
you're a
yeah,
pig. Yeah,
yeah,
well, you want to switch? Yeah. All right, fine.
yeah.
Like,
But like, I like
and he
that.
even
Like,
comments on it. He's like, "You're a dick," and he's like, "Yeah."
he's like, God, I'm such an asshole. But
For,
but the fact that the fact that it doesn't feel like a hero fantasy, the fact that they went against that easy route of like basically being like, oh, this is supposed to be like a surrogate for the reader, like all around nice guy that's picked on, goes out, finds out he's actually really good at stuff, and then becomes the most powerful guy in the world. Like they didn't go for that arc. Kei Korono is much more of like kind of like a shithead that you
he's a
wouldn't want to relate
retaliatory
to.
kind of person. He's a
Yeah,
retaliatory kind of existence. Like,
yeah.
fuck you for making my life difficult. I'll still survive, but like, it pisses me off that I have to actually do something.
Yeah, and exactly. And I think
He's very
a lot of
spiteful and petty about a lot of stuff. Even
yes,
even towards the end, even when you think he's matured, he ends up falling and succumbing to the same things that he never really learned how to like get over those things.
yeah,
It was like, but
and
it's
he's still
crazy. Like
growing.
he grew, but it's like I think that was the point of Gantz though, is like no matter how strong you grow, like certain things can still hurt you, and depending on the amount you of the hurt,
Yeah,
they could get a response. I mean, like without ruining, I don't know. When he went and had his final bout with those aliens when they resurrected everybody and then killed them, I don't blame him for like succumbing to the dark side or getting angry. I think it was a very human reaction.
yes,
I think the narrative of Gantz actually kind of affects his like evaluation, just because like he did grow significantly, but the narrative kind of pointed out that like depending on the amount of like severity, some things could be
yeah.
like
You're still going to be put in situations where you have to make a hard decision, and you're going to make the wrong one out of emotion, and
but
I
gosh
think I
darn
think it
seeing him.
realizes that.
Yeah. What?
Like, no, I think the manga realizes that nobody's perfect, even if they grow substantially. Like there's going to be times where you're pushed and you're going to go against your better nature and do something you normally wouldn't, no matter how far along in your own journey you are, and that's just a cycle that humans have to go through.
I mean, like, in his instance, it's like, how well would someone really do in a survival game where you knew, like, you're going to die from, like, some crazy aliens all the time and stuff? Like,
Yeah. But they
you
put him
know,
in a position where he had to lose everything. And by the time he came back out on the other side, he had developed these qualities that he didn't really know that he had. And he surprised himself and became the leader that he just like, it's one of those things where it's like it's he was more, it was the circumstances that forced him to grow up,
well,
and forced
he was
like
the
it was more.
wisest person out of the group by that
And
point.
yeah, and at that point it's sort of like when you put people in leadership positions and other people's lives are in your hands, you kind of have to nut up or shut up. And I feel like they did a great job of showing how somebody like Corono could have positive improvements in his personality by having that responsibility thrust upon him. And I think they did a fantastic job with it. But
He's the
anyway,
Michael Scott of the Gantz universe.
okay.
That's the manager of The Office.
I
Steve
know who
Carell.
Michael Scott is. I haven't seen enough of it, but
You
anyway.
have been promoted because you've survived. You're alive. Oh, all right, guys. You want to be loose and tight at the same time.
So
That's a
my
series too that hasn't been brought up at all in any of our lists, and I don't know
Gans
why.
Gans was brought
Is
up
Attack
like a
on
few
Titan.
times. Oh,
That's one that
that
I think when it came out, we just weren't into it because like the premise was just kind of like, all right. But then what I've like learned over time is like that series has gone through like insane amounts of like changes in like style narratively. Like it's become like even more like political dystopian espionage than like Full Metal Alchemist ever was now with like even crazier shit. Like I don't
I
know.
believe that. It's just one of those ones that like it's just like I never had enough interest to get into it.
That's the thing. It's like I've realized like just from seeing the memes and stuff, I'm like, oh, so it changes into this. Like,
Yeah.
okay, it's a very weird series, but I guess it gets more into it. It started not in our ballpark, and now that it's ended, it ends in an area that's more in our ballpark of taste. I guess
Okay. Oh, that we're gonna have to do that one at some point.
I
But
think we
anyway,
should.
yeah. So my number one um is gonna have to be Vegeta.
Okay.
Uh, from the vengeful, angry, straight up evil Sand that comes to Earth to that last hug that he has with Trunks before he kills himself defending the Earth from Majin Buu is such a fucking emotional arc, and it's such a huge like 360-degree contrast. And the fact that it happens so organically and you can see every piece of like how the arc completes itself, and you can see exactly like Vegeta is a character that at every point in Dragon Ball you mentally understand where he's coming from because he'll fucking tell you. But you just it takes him so long to kind of come around to that side, and the fact that he kind of like becomes like this softer guy after living on Earth for a long time and then sort of reverses and like lets himself be under control of Babidi and has to like fight his own evil nature that one last time and comes out on the other side able to finally sacrifice himself for the good of other people is just, I think, the ultimate like perfect emotional character arc in all of manga. And I think like Vegeta is one of like the 5 or 6 best written characters in manga, and I think he has the best arc of any character in any manga, at least that I've experienced.
Piccolo.
Piccolo just doesn't
Piccolo.
he just doesn't go through enough. Like
What is your
Piccolo's
belief on Piccolo? Because see, here's the thing that I've realized is the fandom's kind of divided on the fact that Piccolo isn't Piccolo like King Piccolo; he's Piccolo
yeah,
Junior.
yeah,
But King Piccolo stated that he made an exact copy of himself.
yeah,
That Piccolo, so Piccolo Junior, the Piccolo we know, apparently was born with all the memories of King Piccolo
yeah,
and all the same motivations and everything. It was just King Piccolo but younger.
yeah.
So that's
I
what gets me. It's like rereading Dragon Ball into Z into Super. I find it insane to see that old evil bastard King Piccolo now is buddy buddy and like we did a combo move together, Goku son knuckle bump, best dad of the day. Like, and you're just like, dude, that guy was evil. He killed Shenron. And like
well,
now he's buddy buddy with the kid who killed him. Like
I
it's
have
weird. But I mean, it's because Piccolo's character's obvious changed. Like he's merged with Kami, became the original Namekian, whatever. But I mean, like,
so okay, I have some theories on this.
okay,
I consider them to be distinct characters. I think when Piccolo was born, Piccolo Jr. was born, I think he had all of the memories of King Piccolo, but I would imagine that like it's not like the exact same person. It's almost like you're kind of born a different person, but like that King Piccolo like that you were is kind of it probably felt like kind of like a dream. Like it was almost like it felt kind of like a different life. Like it was definitely a reincarnation. And I think um as he developed over those 3 years leading up to the tournament, I think he kept the same motivation and the same evil, but he had different experiences. Like he had a
Like, I mean, when
childhood and he
Raditz
grew
shows
up, and
up, Piccolo was totally geared towards like, I want to murder Goku. Like
yeah,
he
he was
even
still
tells him he made that technique specifically to kill Goku. Like
but he
the
was just chilling for 5 years and never even attacked. Like I think being alone for that long psychologically affected him to the point where like by the time it was just him and Gohan didn't treat him like a monster. It softened him. Like I feel like he was kind of leading to that point already. And I also think that
he also got a
um
sense of humor. Well, he always kind of had a he had a dark sense of humor when he was old King Piccolo. But I one of my favorite scenes in the beginning of Dragon Ball Z is when Piccolo makes Gohan new clothes, and then
yeah.
he changes the symbol on his back to have his name in it, and he's just like, "Ha, yep."
Yeah, you're the demon kid now. But yeah, like I also think that assimilating Nail and Kami might have softened his personality a little bit. I think some of their more upstanding natures might have impacted him a little bit on a subconscious level. Like at least that's what I think. That's always been my theory of Piccolo. Whereas like with Vegeta, it just seems so much more like with Piccolo, there's other external factors going on. Whereas like Vegeta, it seems like him like it's all just himself. It's all him going through all of this alone and him like having these realizations and changing on his own. And I don't know. I just the Vegeta plot line has always just affected me more emotionally. Like I
Cause
think the
yeah,
arc is
he's had to
perfect.
work on his own,
Yeah,
and like
and
he does
then
have Bulma. He has the richest person on the planet with all the technology helping him out. Yeah, but I mean, like that doesn't matter in their universe. That's not even really a help. Like
because like okay, so like I
because like
I would
yeah, like
I would say that Vegeta's arc has 3 acts and an epilogue. Okay, so I would say that his first act is like the Goku fight and everything up until that. His second act is the post Goku fight, all of the Frieza stuff that ends when he finally sheds tears for his fallen people and begs Goku to defeat Frieza for him. And then his third act is everything that happens on Earth and his eventual like transformation by Bobbity and like turning evil, but then good again. And then that final hug with Trunks is like the end of his third act. That's the end of his arc. But then he comes back. And I feel like his epilogue, that last little perfect check mark on what Vegeta was about, was during the Kid Buu fight when Vegeta realizes why he will never be better than Goku and kind of comes to terms with his status as essentially like always going to be playing second fiddle just because he is mentally different than Goku, and Goku will always have more of the motivation to get stronger than he ever will. And I think I don't know, like I feel like Toriyama just wrapped up every aspect of his character perfectly, and that's why I kind of hate Dragon Ball Super because it's like it undoes some of that.
it doesn't
And
undo it though. I think
well,
it.
he's still competitive with Goku. Like I think that's
But here's
dumb.
the
Like
thing:
he gets past that.
he stands there and he sees him fighting Kid Buu. And honestly, reading those panels in the background while Vegeta's giving that deep speech, and you just see
Mm-hmm.
like Goku and Kid Buu drawn like
Mm-hmm.
chibi in the background fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm gonna turn you into candy. Fuck you. I'm gonna shoot you with a Kamehameha. Like,
Yeah.
they're just going at it,
Then
and
Kid Buu
Vegeta's
bites
just
him,
like,
and Goku bites him back.
yeah, he does, and like they look like they're having fun. Like
Yeah.
that's why I can see why Goku would be disappointed. But that was the thing. Like, I don't think Vegeta was straight up like, "I'll never be better than Goku." Like, I don't know. He kind of
He says that.
actually he
He's like
straight up says it,
he
but
says it.
like,
He
I
says
think
I the reason I'll never be better than Goku is because I'm trying to defeat my opponent, whereas Goku's trying to defeat himself. And he's never
yeah,
going to have that
but that
character
but Vegeta
motivation.
ends up changing his motivation in Super to do more of that. Like just well, it's not straight. No, it's still to be stronger than Goku. Never mind.
Yeah, like I'm not cool with that, but I don't know. I think Akira Toriyama wrote a perfect arc and a perfect character, and like I didn't think we needed anything more from him after that.
I mean, who felt more rehabilitated at the end of their arc, Hiei or Vegeta?
I think Hiei's rehabilitation comes sooner than Vegeta's. I think Vegeta takes longer to get to that point and kind of goes back a little bit. Like he takes some steps back to get forward. Like his he's Vegeta is much Vegeta has much more of a struggle with his inner nature and his own allegiance to his sand pride, whereas Hiei kind of like accepts the fact that he's softening up as it's happening and doesn't really, because Hiei is still pretty brutal. Like he's still a fucking demon. He'll still murder people, but I think Hiei deep down always wanted to open up a little bit, and I think Yusuke and the gang kind of bring that out of him, and I think he begrudgingly accepts it as it's going on. But I don't think Vegeta ever wanted the life that he has on Earth, and he essentially has to come to the crossroads of like, what does he value more? His what his original goals were, what his pride as a Saiyan, his instincts are telling him, or the life that he's built here, and how can he reconcile his Saiyan nature with the human family that he has and that he has to take care of. And that's when he kind of chooses the wrong thing, but then goes back on it when he realizes that it's not what he really wants. It's that kind of like, I have to go back to being evil to realize what I have to lose on Earth and realize that I actually do love my family. And that's, I don't know, that's such a huge thing for him. And it's such a huge leap that a character that was that evil would do that. But like Toriyama maps it like so well and like develops it so well that like all of the struggle seems real and the conclusion that he lands on seems earned based on the mental struggle that he goes through with it throughout the series and what we see him go through.
And then he's put into a maid's outfit to change a cat's bed sheets.
Okay, I don't want to talk about Super anymore. God
Or
damn
in
it.
GT, he has a mustache. I thought that was dope.
Yeah, Mustache Vegeta's cool. I'll give him that.
Baby Vegeta's still one of my favorite freaking villains. Like
Yeah,
I love GT's like Tuffle plot line and the Black
yeah.
Dragon. I don't know. I like GT's plot. Like a lot of, it
I do
was
too.
ridiculous. It was ridiculous and dumb, but at least it didn't take itself seriously or it overtook itself seriously. Like
Yeah. I
it's
like Pan.
90s
I
and
like Oob.
grungy.
I like
What
that
should we name him? We'll name him Oob. Boo backwards.
I like that it at least tried to pass the torch. Whereas like Dragon Ball Super doesn't even give a fuck. It's like it's just gonna be about Goku and Vegeta. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
And it's like no, like make it, if you're gonna keep doing Dragon Ball stories, do stories about other characters. But that's
I
not
think the
what's Manga
problem was
doing.
that
So
there was like a Dragon Ball was built off of a lot of characters being interesting coming together. And
mm-hmm.
then we picked and choose what characters we like. Like, you know, everybody freaks out when Master Roshi shows up to do anything, but mainly if they're a fan of Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball Z people are like, oh, the old guy, who cares?
Dude, you know what series I want? I want the Adventures of Young Roshi. That would be a
Yeah, like
great manga.
training go Grandpa Gohan. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know. Like that'd be
his
fun.
rivalry with the
Fighting
fucking with the guy from the Crane School, like the
General Tao.
his the death of his master at the hands of King Piccolo. Like, there's so much cool stuff in Roshi's history that I
I
want to
love
see.
in Dragon Ball Abridged when Goku pops up and sees General Tao as a cyborg and he's just screaming, freaking out. He's like, "Are you trying to blow up the planet?" He's just still screaming, like, "Okay, I'm gonna go now."
Anyway, what's your favorite character growth series, or character growth moment, or character growth as a whole?
I really like Komatsu and Toriko. I'm gonna put that as my favorite one because, like, he's a character that starts off totally like the Koichi, like super like bitchly ass character, like, oh my gosh, we're all gonna die. And you're like, dude, this is chapter 3. Shut up. Is this gonna be a running thing? But it's like by the end of the series, you're like, dude, you genuinely like tried really hard. You worked, you earned it. You became a tough character. You became a character where like it's like, you know how everybody, like, look at Hunter x Hunter. You know how like everybody's like, oh, Leorio's kind of all right at Nen, so he'd never survive in like the New World or the Dark Continent or
Yeah,
whatever. But it's
yeah,
like, it'd be like if when you start, you're like, yeah, but then you get to the end of their character development and you're like, nah, they're tough. They're way tougher than like a lot of the tough guys in even the first half of the series. So I don't know. And it's the fact that he maintains his like positive optimism, but then becomes more wise and like knowledgeable about things. So he's like, no, that'd be dumb. We can't just be like risk takers like that. We need to take time and think about this and be smart about it. And you're like, dude, good job. I like that.
mm,
So I don't know.
okay,
That's my favorite. I mean, I'm a sucker for like the Koichis or the side characters becoming badasses, like Krillin.
yeah, yeah.
Seeing Krillin do great, I'm like, yeah.
You always want to root for Krillin.
Yeah. The Krillins. Like Krillin's a great example of character development too. He was a little
Yeah,
shithead when we first get him, and now he's like a hero.
it's okay. I'm Krillin, everyone's friend.
Sensibine!
But
I'm
he
gonna
kind
give
of
you a
is
small
though.
one. Like in the anime. I love the that's the anime. I'm gonna give you a small one.
uh, uh,
Wow, no. Do you think we pretty much covered everything pretty
yeah,
decently?
but what were your honorable mentions for character growth? I don't think you really went
Oh,
into that.
Colby. I love
Kobe
Colby as a character.
from
Character.
from One Piece.
Yes,
That's a good choice, actually. I like that.
he's like. I showed Destiny a picture. Like, see this guy? This is him now, and she's like, "What?" Like completely confused. Like that looks like a American cartoon character. The other guy looks like if somebody adapted it into an anime and made him look super badass. I'm like, no, that's the same guy in the same series.
But that is kind of what happened, though.
Yeah, but
It's
yeah,
like,
those are my
dude,
honorable mentions.
it basically made a man out of him. Garp did. But yeah, okay, so that's good. Yeah, I think we pretty much covered everything. This is going to be an over 2 hour podcast, so that's going to be fun.
I gotta go to the
Um,
bathroom. I've been holding it. I'll be right back.
okay, okay. Anyway, so I don't want to edit this out, so I'm just going to talk to you guys while Corey's gone. Anyone listening to this, please give us some manga recommendations or series that you would like to see us do in the future. And let us know like what your favorite character growth moments were, your favorite shonen, favorite seinen. Both of us, as you can see, are like avid manga readers, and we're always looking for new stuff. So anything that's like obscure, interesting, that's easily accessible, let us know in the comments because we're always looking for new recommendations. Um, yeah, so do that if you ever listen to this. What else? Um, yeah, I think I'm just gonna keep talking about Yu Yu Hakusho. Wait, sounds like he's back. Nope, nope, not yet. Nope, there he is. I was talking to our three listeners.
Oh yeah, and Ippo, his character development's good too.
Yeah. Anyway, so what series do you want to do next week? Because I said that you could pick the next one.
All right. I've been really digging Jujutsu Kaisen recently.
Jujutsu
That's a
Kaisen
new
it
one.
is. Let's do it. Is it on Viz? Shonen
You
Jump
could
app?
watch the anime in English on HBO Max,
But what about the manga?
and you could read the manga on Shonen Jump.
Yes. We'll have to talk. We'll probably have to break it up by arc, though, right? Because it's probably pretty long right now.
It's about 147 chapters. I would say, yeah, we just do it
We'll
based
break it
off
up
of
by
the
arc.
first season, whatever adapts.
Okay, I'm down to do that. And I really have
Gojo's
to go to
my
the.
favorite character. He's like,
Okay.
you're like, Kakashi's badass. He covers one of his eyes and doesn't give a shit or doesn't afraid of anything. And then you have Gojo who's like, I cover both my eyes and I'm late to every meeting and I definitely don't afraid of anything. I definitely don't give a shit about anything or anybody.
Anyway, this has been our first possibly annual manga awards. We'll have read probably about 40 more series by the next time, by next year, basically this time next year. So we might have a whole new fucking list of categories. So we got to revisit this like in 365 days and see our lists have changed. But anyway, that is all for today. Make sure to watch the anime, but more importantly, read the manga.